Hi everybody, we have a fireplace now. Our new, but thanks to technology, look what you can do. You can have a fireplace. And we moved our faux fireplace from another room into the fireside chat. So it's all, since the weather goes from 70 degrees to 40 degrees, you never know what's going to happen. But we had confessions tonight, and that went a little bit less. It was cold out. Father, were you freezing over there?
Oh, not freezing, but it was a little colder, yeah.
Hi Dale, hi Suzette, hi Dawn, Rosemary, Catherine, and Guillermo, our deacon, is still shoved in the corner, but at least now he's warm by the fireplace. And Suzette says good evening. Jim and Brian are here, and Marie and Michael. And let's get our YouTube page open. Father, anything exciting happening with you today?
Well, Father, we have another good small piece of good news from the deacon. If you want to share that.
Ooh, what happened?
Oh, I got my license today.
So you can do.
So I can do weddings. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody want to get married? Deacon Guillermo's ready.
He'd be wonderful for marriage preparation.
Yes. So, all right. So we've got our multiple channels here ready to go. Let's see what else. And Marianne Gaffney's here. Anthony's here. Christy's here. And hey, Marianne. Marianne says hi. Everybody, our flavor for tonight: LaCroix tangerine. You know, when it's 40 degrees out in May, what's more refreshing than a tangerine LaCroix sparkling water? So we rearranged things so that we could have a more elegant look. We went from no fireplace to fireplace. Suzette says it looks like everyone got haircuts. Have you gotten a haircut, Father?
I did get a haircut.
We all have haircuts. I don't have hair. Deacon has hair. Father has hair. We wanted to shave his hair, but then he's afraid that...
At my age, you get worried it doesn't grow back.
Lori says, have to reboot my video, isn't working again. Be right back. Okay, good. Marianne says, yum. She likes our LaCroix. Our LaCroix. My LaCroix. Father, what are you drinking tonight?
I've got diet soda, and this is just a flavored water is all it is.
Deacon?
I'm actually drinking LaCroix too.
Ooh, we're moving him up. Christy says, my son Joseph wants to comment, so here it is. What's your... Okay, is that your comment, Christy? Anthony says, good evening to the three amigos from Tony and Debbie. We are here. Great to have you. You can be our fourth and fifth amigos. Josephine's here. Linda's here. Diane's here. So we I had a virtual office chat this morning after Mass. We got some good conversation going. And we are taking some steps to reopen the chapel for adoration at night so that people can come at night. We're working on that. But, you know, we're still going to be working on streaming here at night. And what else? Working with the diocese and following the news about the openings and things like that. So we're excited about that. And let's see. And Suzette noticed your Mission Barbecue cup.
We like Mission Barbecue.
And there's Kelly. Hi, Kelly King It. Hope things are going well in Woodbridge or Dumfries. And Linda says hello, everybody. And Mary just joined us. And let's see here. I just got word. Want to congratulate a friend of mine here real quick. Let me see here. It was good news earlier too. Terry Miller with our Divine Mercy group, her granddaughter had a successful surgery today.
Wonderful.
So that was good news. We're happy about that. And so prayers answered there. My aunt's doing better. Thanks for everybody who asks. She's recovering from her surgery, her bypass surgery. And let's see here. So I want to congratulate Jerry Sarchett, who's the new head football coach at Warren County High School here in Front Royal, and here nearby in Front Royal, on the coming up school year. So I knew Jerry, and he was head coach and teacher at St. John Paul the Great. And so but let's see here. What did, Father Schultz wanted to know his internet connection failed, and before he could hear the good news about the deacon, he wanted to know if you have an ordination date. I said, no, he can just do weddings now. So, what else we got going on here? Let's see, we got some questions, comments. Linda said, hi everyone. Okay, we got Mary. Mary joined us. Anna Fitzpatrick's here. Lori says, thanks, I really love the adoration streaming. I put it on, I go to bed. Yes, that's what people have told us, and then when I don't do it early enough, no one gets to go to sleep with the adoration. Mark joined us, Trisha joined us. Trisha says, whoa, nice fireplace. So Trisha, we didn't go out and buy it. It was already here at the Rectory in another room. But since we keep calling this Fireside Chat, I thought, why not have a fireside? So Joe's here, Terry's here, Juana and Chris Shaper. Well, they're not together, but Juana and Chris both logged on. And nobody over here at Sacred Heart yet. And let's see. Father, have you read anything good since we last chatted?
Nothing new. No, nothing really.
All right. Brian joined us. Charlie and Lisa joined us. And been reading a bunch. I'm reading some history. Got this interesting book on John Courtney Murray, and was reading that, lecturing Father Holmes at dinner about that. And then we were outside in our cold, freezing confessionals, and we had people dropping off food we were collecting tonight for the soup kitchen, the Knights of Columbus. Let's see here. Josephine says, I'm glad I'm not the only one that falls asleep to adoration. Beautiful. That is excellent. We are glad to provide that for you. So Philip Bettendorf and Mary Reese are here. Welcome. And Pat says, tell Father Holmes I am reading the Vatican Pimpernel.
Oh, I think that's on the Monsignor, the Irish Monsignor
From
from World War II, who got
Yes.
saved Jewish lives. I can't remember his Hugh O'Flaherty.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't read it, but I saw the movie about him. Gregory Peck played the movie. It's pretty good.
Yeah, so we're constantly thinking of new ways to torture people by videos and streaming and classes. If anybody has any requests, we are looking for those. Pat says yes, that is the very book she's talking about. Brian says, does Father Schultz still read the night before Christmas for part of his homily for Christmas Mass? So let me send that message to Father and say, and ask him right now, because I don't know if he's going to hear that. Dear Father, Brian Dunn wants to know, and I'll send the question. And so we got that. Pauline is here. Paulina. Tricia says, thanks for the update this morning on how Mass might be implemented with social distancing. I'm interested to see what the bishop has to say. Yes, he's got a team of people and a group helping him prepare, a task force to guide him as he follows the latest developments with the openings in the state. I don't know, has anybody seen any news today how things are going in Virginia? Let's see here, we can check real quick if anybody, the Virginia coronavirus cases. They're testing more. Oh, it looks like it's a little bit down. That's nice. So we look like we might have hit a high point on May 1st. And St. Joseph is working, let's say he's working his magic. But, and that consecration. Okay, good. Excellent. Chris says hello from Queens, New York. How's life up in Queens tonight? Hope, is that anywhere, that's not anywhere from you're from.
I was actually born in Queens, and so was another very famous person, Donald J. Trump. We are both from Queens, as was actually Maria Callas.
Really?
I think she was born in Queens, yeah.
Brian, you asked if Father Schultz still reads the night before Christmas for Heart of His Homily for Christmas Mass. He says, I have no specific recollection of that. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever been at your parish on Christmas Eve. So, Brian, I'm not sure where that reference comes from, but I'm giving you the answer. Brian says, fingers crossed for next week. Yes, we're hoping things are going to open up.
That would be nice.
Jim asks, is there a proper etiquette for driving by the Divine Mercy picture when the Eucharistic Adoration monstrance is in the window? Not really. We put the image up for Divine Mercy Sunday. Our music director, Mark Pickowitz, had that image produced and laminated, and then our facilities director, Michael Collins, put it up on the wall, and we've left it there because our Lord said to St. Faustina, where the image is honored, brings blessings. So when we have the adoration, it's just, the reverence is mainly due initially the Blessed Sacrament there in the window when it's on for adoration, but the image is there just kind of maybe it's for meditation, a reminder. I don't think there's anything specific you have to do.
Certainly, I would think at the hour maybe 3 o'clock if they could say a prayer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's the hour of mercy.
Absolutely. Brian says, "LOL." Maybe I had the wrong priest. Yes, I'm not sure who does that one. Mary wants to know, what are your thoughts on the video series The Chosen? I haven't watched it yet. I've heard good reviews. People seem to like it. Have either of you seen this new series?
I have not.
Okay. I think it's about the apostles of the early church. I think it was crowdfunded by a number of people, and so it sounds like it's good, but I'll have to try to check it out. So if anybody has any comments on The Chosen, let us know what you think. Mike Hansen joined us, and Bonnie says, "Hi, Fathers and Deacon. I love these chats. I was just reading George Weigel book on the fragility of order, and this spoke to me because I feel like you've been doing such a light during this time. I also feel like you have been such a light during this time. I also love the adoration streaming." Yes, it's been amazing what God has opened up for us in the parish, because everybody's come together with ideas. We're bouncing ideas off each other. And some of the things I've said before we wanted to do, I thought, wow, maybe in 2 or 3 years we could start streaming masses. Well, God willing, when we get back to public masses again, we are going to stream them, and we will stream adoration from the chapel. So, we're trying to make it so that ideally, what I'd like to propose doing is that when things kind of get back to normal, that we would have adoration going on in the church during the day, except for when we have a funeral or some kind of a rehearsal, or maybe at certain times a year with school things or penance things, that it might but that our problem, which is a great problem to have, is that during the day our adoration chapel can be packed. We can have 10 or 12 people in there at the same time, and you come in, there's no room. And so I was kind of concerned during the COVID period, when we want to give people space for distancing, that the church is big. But it's really, really quite nice, because you can come in and spread out, and then there's even more room for people to come during the day. So in an ideal world, if we can make this work, if adoration's going on during the day in the church, it could be streaming over the internet at night, when we could move the adoration to the chapel. There's less people. We also have a camera hooked up in there. We'll be able to stream at night, and then we can stream masses, and we can podcast all our homilies, and you can have the Father Holmes series on Walter Chiswick, and all kinds of great stuff. M37s. So
I think we want to reiterate, though, Father, even though the technology has been, well, first I would say foremost that your leadership in this area has been terrific, and that you're very, very tech savvy. You and Guillermo, the deacon, are both. Everyone knows I am not tech savvy, and so that's a tremendous help. And there are other people who have helped us too. But just as good as the technology is, and it has helped a lot of people, and it is wonderful. But it doesn't replace going to mass. Now, for those who maybe they're elderly, they can't drive, or even when we get past this COVID period, they won't be able to come, so they can watch a live stream mass. That's great. We want them to, if they can connect. But it can't ever replace going to mass. We want to be clear on that.
Absolutely. No. And the idea is just that we're always trying to think, how can we reach people? We want to encourage more people to come to Mass when it's public, again, and continue confessions, encourage people to grow in their relationship with our Lord with adoration, have more teaching available, more adult ed and formation starting this fall, keep, continue the amazing things that Mrs. Plaza is doing at the school, in our academy. But now, also too, for shut-ins, it's amazing. People like to be able to see their church. So if they can't come to Mass they're sick or they just can't get out or whatever, that they'll be able to see the parish because they can feel connected. If they want to see their fat priest, we'll be there on the screen, or our skinny deacons.
And I guess the streaming can be a great complement to the Mass, because sometimes this used to happen to me when I was a lay faithful. You will go to Mass and hear a good homily, and you will say, "Oh, I wish I remember what the priest said." Well, if we're streaming from now on, you can go back to the video and actually check out whatever he said. And
I think the beauty of the technology is because it's so new, it's, effectively 30 to 40 years old, the internet, give or take. We've only really begun, I think, to just scratch the surface and see that the limits of technology and what it can be used for good, for the sake of evangelism. We hear about pornography and all the bad things on the internet. There are a lot of bad things, but it has the capacity to do so much good and to reach people. You've got people halfway around the world now that tune in. It's marvelous.
Well, speaking of which, hi, Father Guillermo, promoted to Deacon Guillermo. Nice to see you from El Salvador.
Oh.
So, that's from Thomas Duran.
Oh, okay.
So, Megan joined us, Sarah joined us, Michelle Hunt joined us, Carrie's here. Let's see, Bernadette says, I miss the Mass and the Eucharist so much. Yeah, I mean, people are yearning to be able to receive again. I think this is increasing the desire of a lot of people to really be able to participate physically. I think also, too, it's a chance that God has used to bring us all a deeper awareness of our need for Him, and for our prayer life, and what the Eucharist is, and what it means for the faithful. Let's see here. Anthony says, we continued our scheduled adoration hour in the church, though at times we're the only one present at the end of our scheduled hour. Should we remain until someone comes for adoration, since the Blessed Sacrament should not be left unattended? Yes. Anthony, can you let me know what your hour is? And we can double check our schedule to see if maybe, if it's something that's been happening on a regular basis, or just we need to double check, because we have been trying to have people cover. And so if they've been missing or whatever, there was some confusion, we can check into it, so let us know. Mary joined us. Father Weber joined from Bonica.
Oh, wow.
Hey,
Neat.
Father Jason, how are you? Bonnie's here. Father says, gents, good evening. Father, I've been enjoying watching, good evening to you. I've been watching your masses and adoration from San Francisco de Asís and the historic church. And I imagine it's hot down there. Well, we've got like 40-degree weather right now. So I hope you're doing well down there. Let's see here. Mark says, St. Mary's had to adjust the music on the live stream on Sunday due to copyright issues. Would public mass streaming create the same issues? That is a very good question, Mark. And I'm going to write that down, because we do. One time we were doing some music as background music on one of our streams, and YouTube, with its artificial intelligence technology or whatever, said that the music was copyrighted or something. So that's a good question for when we get the licenses to perform, if that includes that. So let's see here, copyright for mass streaming music. If not, we might just pause the stream during the songs. I'm just joking. That's bad. Let's see here. Jennifer Cooper here. Hello. Hi, Jennifer. Hope the Coopers are doing well. Hello to Kathleen, who joined us. And Father Weber says he's doing well. Great. He says, we got 40-degree weather too in Celsius. It's good we're united. Naomi's here. Let's see here. Anna Marie's here. Pat says, I like to be able to hear both homilies and get two angles. That's right. Dolores joined us. Joan is here. She said, I like the fireside chat. Yes, we've upgraded. I don't know what else we can do to upgrade. We've got a lamp and candlesticks, and we've got a little St. Peter's Basilica, and we're trying to make the deacon be able to move out, but he gets shoved in the corner all the time.
Maybe we can have something new every day so they can...
Exactly. Like, what's different about this picture? Dolores says, hello, Father Lumber, Father Holmes, and Deacon Gonzalez. Thank you all. You are welcome. If you have questions, send them in. Let's see here. Let's see here. So Anthony says Wednesday to 6 to 7 p.m. Okay, I'll double check That might be because of the adoration going on the window during the confessions. So that is a good question. I will work on that because coverage. Okay, thank you. Let's see here. Renee's here. Naomi says hi. April joined. Hi, April. Kathleen says the diocese sent a letter last week about the music and copyright. Okay, yes, that's right. I saw that from Mark Herman, and I need to double check on that, how we will work on that. Lori says there was an email about copyright music, okay, that Father Mosman got. I thought it was went to all of you. It was, and I need to pay more attention to it. Use hymns that are traditional and not copyright by the Mafia Hymnal Company, and we all know and love. Right. I'll talk to Mark Pickowitz about it. Karen says from the eastern shore of Maryland. Hello all. Hello Karen. I guess obviously you can fish out there. Do you get crabs out there with all that great crab seasoning? Let's see. Naomi says love it. Bonnie says Father says Bishop Burbage said when we might possibly be able to return to regular mass, or maybe have parking lot mass. Yes, there's a task force that the bishop has established that's been meeting for about a week and has been gathering information and going over proposals and looking at cases around the country and following carefully what the governor has been proposing or indicating in his press conferences and public statements and releases. And so I think tentatively, looks like in Virginia we'd be entering into phase 1 of opening, starting on I think around the 14th or the 15th. And so I want to say that church, currently, if I'm not mistaken, that the numbers of church people who would be in church would be rising in phase 2, which I want to guess might be early June. So I don't know if we have to wait that long. That's just a tentative off the top of my head. But yes, he's studying it. Karen says yes. Okay, yes, they got good seafood out there. Okay, Tess says, good evening, fathers and deacon. Enjoyed the office visit today. Thanks, Johnny, for joining us earlier, Tess. You can't get away from us. We are coming to you in the morning and the evening. Lori says, hey, I'm from the eastern shore of Maryland. Yes, Karen, meet Lori. Lori, meet Karen. Lori's dad is he's a falconer. They have this great place out by the water. Matt Jordan joined us. Chris Cooper's here. Let's see. What else? Father, how's the M37 going?
Well, I'm going to have to do some work on it tomorrow, but we're hoping to fix the problem of sometimes when I start it, it just won't start. I think it's not getting gas, so I'm thinking the fuel pump is maybe going bad. But when it runs, it idles good.
Are you still looking at the hardtop?
I think so, yeah. I think we got to go online. Got to get the deacon to help me go online. We're going to go on to some Power Wagon website, see if I can sell the troop seats and the canvas top, put a hard top on it and a heater in it, and then I could drive it around town about 45 miles an hour, and it would be a little warmer, hopefully.
So there's normally 4 areas of formation. Pastoral formation, you got the human, intellectual, and spiritual, pastoral. But there's a 5th area, the M37. And Deacon Guillermo, in addition to being a crisis manager in the time of Corona, is learning about mechanics and operating restored Korean War vehicles. He is getting it all.
Helps us keep our sanity.
Totally. One of our viewers on YouTube, Newcomb Barbecue, Father, it is great to have this. So Newcomb, it's great to have you here with us. Let's see, Jennifer says, wait, hang on. Here we go. Renee says, hello from Oregon. Hi, Renee.
Wow.
We got Oregon.
What part of Oregon? I got a sister in Sandy.
Renee, where are you in Oregon? Fathers, sisters, and Sandy.
Near Portland, somewhat near Portland.
Naomi says, happy birthday to you, Mom. That's great. She's a great lady.
Wow, Oregon.
Lori says, haha, Karen, I'm from Goldsboro, right on the Delaware line, hoping to get to D.C. Oh, no, Ocean Shore, OC soon. So whatever, okay. Stephanie's here. Michelle Casey Bueno from the Cathedral. Michael Coons here. Christina Stephanie from Woodbridge. Let's see, Jennifer Cooper, might be news already covered. If so, apologize. Any news on Deacon's upcoming ordination? Still on time? Any updates?
No, I mean, we haven't heard about it, which in a way I guess is good news, because that means until we hear something, we're keeping the date, so keep praying. Yep.
And Deacon got some investments, right?
Yep.
Some benefactors from another parish. But that's just a hint. If you want to get something for the deacon,
It's because he's so wonderful and so kind.
he is.
He makes us look good, which is not
It's a
easy.
miracle.
That's not easy.
Tricia says, will the info about priest assignments come out soon? Soon? I don't think so. Well, that's a good question. I don't know. Of course, the bishop has a few other things going on. Normally, it's been early May when
No,
they've
it would
been
be
coming
about
out.
the
You're
time,
right.
yeah.
So that's a good question. I get this vibe that the bishop, because of all the craziness in the air, doesn't want to make a lot of changes.
Yeah.
So we're kind of
agree.
curious
I
what's
think
going to
he's
happen.
smart. He would just replace the guys that are retiring, put the guys in to be ordained, give them an assignment. Maybe just say, stick it out for one more year at your current assignment.
That's what they said to Father Holmes. Can you stick it out, Father Member, one more year? And so as long as I can work on my M37, it's okay.
I'd love this. I like Winchester. I'm very happy. I'd love to stay another year.
Woo! That's what we want. Let's see. Christopher Wode's here. Patrick Finnegan joined us. Matt Jordan says, good evening, fathers and deacon. What might be an unintended consequence of the quarantine? These Rectory Fireside chats, complete with a fireside now, are so delightful. People might come to expect these from y'all going forward. Thank you so much for doing them. Nokesville, checking in. Well, Matt, hope life in Nokesville is great. We are going to continue these Rectory chats. Even when life is great and you're back out and about, escaping from Nokesville, we'll be here with you. Brian Baldwin joined us. Hope you had a great birthday the other day, Brian. Lori says, if he needs a wish list for us or where to send money. Haha. So, Deacon, why don't you maybe, he just got his license so he can do weddings and officiate in Virginia, but he can't sell that, so he can't get money that way. But maybe you can make an Amazon wish list. Have you ever done something like that?
No, but I can work on it. I mean,
Yeah, but you want to get him some books? It's kind of, I guess, like a wedding registry. I don't know. I don't know if you want to buy vestments on Amazon, but, there's stuff. You can get chalices and things sometimes.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So
Yeah,
let's see.
probably.
But you have a chalice, right?
I do, yeah.
The chalice, you've got some
Pretty. You showed me
vestments.
the pictures. Very pretty chalice too.
And Father got him a beautiful chasuble.
We got him a nice rose. I think it's a nice rose.
Yep.
So
Hey, do you want to go get it and show it to him? Is it
Sure.
ready to go?
Yeah, I can go get it.
We're going to have a display of the new chasuble. Okay.
Father, just one thought about the rectory chats. That the council, in one of the documents, I don't remember which one, said that we're semper reformanda. We're always reforming and always on the road to Calvary, always on the road to Jerusalem. We face east,
Right.
tradition in the liturgy. So I think with one of the unintended consequences, perhaps, is how are we going to look now to this new technology? And I think we have to always be thinking about always evangelizing.
Yeah.
Bringing people. I mean, I think you hit the nail perfect on the head. I hate to keep repeating what you're saying, but you're right. It's ultimately it's about bringing people to Jesus Christ. That's the bottom line. It's about the salvation of souls. So how can we use the technology to bring Christ to people?
Look
and
at
people to
this.
Christ?
For Deacon has his rose vestment that Father Holmes got him. Can you explain a little bit about it? Any particular thing about this, why you picked it?
I just like it. It's a traditional vestment. It's got kind of the modern Cairo, if you will. So you wear it twice a year for a Gaudete and Laetare Sunday. And I don't know if this has the maniple or the stuff, but you could probably get the maniple and the burst and the veil so that you could also use it for the more traditional Latin Mass if you like.
It's got purple. Is it lined? No.
No,
This is
that's
great.
not.
Someday
not
when
it's
the
not too
deacon
heavy.
gets old and fat, he won't sweat as much under the
Father,
spotlight.
what's the two things you don't want to grow as you get older?
What?
You said your books and your belly.
Yeah, oh, I like that.
Well, you
So,
said it.
someone asked, Jennifer Cooper said, can Deacon make an ordination registry? Let's see what we can do. We can't be shilling for dollars.
Oh, we're
but
very
we wanna support him.
we're very proud of him. We'll be sad to lose him.
Lori says, wow, priest assignments in COVID time seems too crazy. It does. Let's see. Laura Ricketts is here. Naomi says, some priest friends in North Dakota said they are back to having masses, but I think you have to sign up for a mass and you're not obligated to go. They have little yarn ropes over the pews so as to social distance people there, asking the parishioners to receive on their hand. So we will, I'm getting these kind of feed inputs from around the country. I'm reading things or people emailing or sending it in. So right now it looks like different places are, because we've been struggling. I was talking this morning after Mass about, do we do a registry? Do we do a lottery? Do you figure out one weekend it's A to, M and the next week it's N to Z, in terms of letting people in, we can make the deacons stand out in the parking lot and say, sorry, no mass for you. But Bonnie says, if we need holy water, is there a particular font or dispenser should we ask the office? Contact the office, call a regular number, and speak with Sharon or whoever answers, and we can arrange for you to come by. We can bless the water, because there's not water to distribute right now, but we can bless it. Tina Spencer joined us. Jennifer Cooper, fashion show, woohoo! Lori says, yeah, I totally want to see the chasuble, so you saw it. Father Fasano joined us. Father's praying.
Nice.
Did you see his new chasuble, Father? I hope you're doing well. Donna joined us. Suzette says, very nice. Laura says, it's awesome. Maria Dominguez joined us. Lori says, nice. Thomas in El Salvador says, nice. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, is there anything else on the Sacred Heart page? I mean, it's interesting because right now we have about, 50 people watching. This is great, in terms of being able to talk to people that, maybe they wouldn't always be able to drive in. So, let's see here. Lori says, honestly like the alphabet idea, would at least cut down the people attempting to claim a spot. Yeah, I mean, some parishes I've heard, or some places have said that they were going to have if you register, this is where it really gets a nightmare. Because, a typical small mass at Sacred Heart, we have 400 people. So if we cut that in half, it's 200 people. And then if you have to register for a spot, kind of like, ugh. But again, even still though, if you just do if you do alphabet, it still doesn't control how many people are going to show up at given mass.
Father, I think as you pointed out, it's trying to craft a policy, at least from the bishop's point of view, is going to be hard because bigger parishes, smaller parishes, parking lots, locations, it's going to be very, very difficult how it's going to all work out. We'll see.
But we'll see. Holy Spirit's in charge. Blessed Mother's showing us so far. Who knew we were going to do all this stuff? And it's all kind of working out. Michael joined us. Sarah's here. Hello, Millers. Hope the Millers are doing well. And so let's see if we have any more. Oh, wait, we got a question here in Spanish. Hang on a second. Here we go. We got a message for Deacon Guillermo.
Oh.
Saludos. This is from Andrea Escalante.
Okay.
Saludos, padres, especialmente al diácono Guillermo de parte de su tía Julia y Andrea desde El Salvador. Abundantes bendiciones y que Dios les dé la fuerza y protección que necesiten. I don't know what that last one is.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so it's your aunt and uncle?
Sure, yeah.
Oh. Can I say something to him in Spanish?
Sure, I mean, un saludo y les tengo que escribir, así que un día de esto les escribo un correo. I have to send them an email.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I have their email and I have
Nice, how wonderful.
That's great. This is like international.
It's amazing.
This is great. We got people all over. Okay. What else we have here? Very nice. So we liked your vestments. We got that. So what else? We're thinking I asked this morning, got some good feedback whether if we do some other kind of classes or something online, any requests, things people are interested in doing, Marian devotion, Bible study. Someone was saying some kind of adult ed, ongoing adult ed, because the thing is if we stream it earlier in the day, you could always come back and watch it later. You're busy with the family or work or whatever. There's a way here, so if you have questions or topics, send us a kind of targeted things that I would like to see, a chat about this or teaching. Anything particular you'd love to talk about or study?
Fulton Sheen is one of my favorites.
He wrote a lot. What would you dive in on? Where do you start with Fulton Sheen?
Good question. Probably Treasure and Clay, his biography, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
I've read that. I've read several of the smaller books. I have not read his Life in Christ. I think ultimately his Life in Christ is hard to say since I read it. It's probably his best work. I think looking at his virtues as a priest.
Okay.
He had a strong Marian devotion, prayed the rosary, I'm sure, every day. Did a holy hour every day. He always dressed in clerics or cassock. That impresses me. He always dressed in a priestly way. I think some of the things we've talked about, he saw the signs of the times in terms of the changing of the culture and where the church was going in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s. The one thing I somewhat regret about his life now, thinking about it, but he was, towards the end of his life, obviously he had some health issues. He was at the council. He actually made two interventions. One was to speak, I think they were both to speak on the missions, because he was propagation of the faith at that time, I think. Afterwards he became Bishop of Rochester, which was not a happy time for him apparently, but he was just such a prophetic voice, and in the time after the council, and then he actually resigned in 1969 and went back to doing retreats his last 10 years of his life. I wish he would have maybe spoken out on things more, but I'm not sure what I would have wanted him to speak out on or say. I mean, you know, he had a lot of wisdom. He had I think a genuinely holy man. So I don't know. I wish he would have spoken out more forcefully, maybe on some of the things he saw with the changes in the liturgy or contraception, or people leaving the priesthood, or I mean, there were so many things I guess he could have said. I don't know. I guess he felt at that point he was mostly just wanted to go back to his first love, which was doing retreats. So
yeah. So there's a lot we could dive in.
There is.
A Fulton Sheen series here with Father Holmes, and let's see. So some of the stuff. So Chris asks, one topic we could look at: could you discuss how Marian devotion grew in the early church? Yeah, to be honest with you, there's this great book by Brant Petrie, like Mary and the Jewish roots of Marian devotion, and so so that would be something because it gives us something to work through. Let's see. Jennifer says, watch any good movies lately? I have not. Have you used anything?
No, but if I could give a quick plug, there's a 2-volume set. I don't know if volume 3 is out, by a guy named Luigi Gambaro. I believe it's Luigi Gambaro, who's a Marist or Marianist, and he goes into Marian history and devotion. Volume 1 is like the first several hundred years. Volume 2 is the medieval time. I don't think he's up to volume 3 yet, but that's
okay.
If you're looking for a good Marian set, that's probably the best set around if you can get it.
I mean, I think he's talking about in terms of what we could talk about in a class online.
Well,
so
you could use Gambaro's work. It might be a bit in depth, but that would be one good set. I'm sure there are other good works. Petrie's book would be good as a starter, certainly, and there are other good books also.
So we can look and see what we want to dive in on. Pat says we could look at Lewis and or Chesterton. That would be a good topic we could look at.
Lewis would be wonderful. I'd like to read more of him. I haven't read him in years.
Megan Battle says, careful with the alphabet setup about the mass scheduling. By last name, you need to analyze your parish list to see if you have a balanced list of amounts of people with the last name starting with different letters. Lessons learned from years of school logistics. Yes, that is true, right? There are times when you think this is totally set up and you find, okay, we have like 500 more people in the first half than the second half of the alphabet. Bonnie says a Latin class. We can tackle that.
Ooh.
Jim?
What would you want to teach on if you could?
I don't know. I've actually been doing some talks for the Hispanic community. So we did a talk about the Mass. We did a talk about the Liturgy of the Hours.
Okay.
Last time Father was with us, so they asked him a lot of questions about when we were reopening church and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Jim points out it's Bonnie Duda's birthday today. So happy birthday, Bonnie. Hope you're having a great quarantine birthday. Father Fasano says The World's First Love by Sheen.
Yes, and I have not read that book. Bits and pieces of a little bit. I mean, he definitely had, there's no question he had a strong Marian devotion.
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know if he did Demonstrate the consecration. He probably did.
Yeah.
And a lot of his books had the Latinum, to something like To Jesus Through Mary or something like that, that he wrote in some of the older books. So he definitely had a strong Marian devotion.
Let's see here.
But I think all of us probably should.
Yes, absolutely. Tess says, the diocese has some great speakers for the Institute for Catholic Culture. Perhaps some can dust off some off their shelf, ready to go pieces. Yeah, right. Father Pisano, Bishop Sheen wore a hair shirt.
Yes, that's
Where
true.
can you buy one? I don't think Gamarelli
I don't think
sells
you can
them.
get one of those
That's
anymore.
a good question. I think people still do some of this stuff, but I wonder if you have to get it. Yeah. SecretAsceticalSupplies.com.
Right. I don't know where you'd even get it. I think the purpose of those types of things, like hair shirts, and one of the spiritual directors I saw years ago, God rest his soul, Aidan Mulaney, who was a Franciscan, a very fine Franciscan scholar, good man. He told me, he was ordained in 1953, so he's passed away, but he said he used to wear a chain around his leg. Now, it was never meant like, okay, we're gonna, we want to just chop the leg off. It wasn't like that. It was hair shirts and chains and You know,
Ways
these-
of corporal mastery.
Yeah, and even like, you know, flagellation, which could get out of hand. You were never to break the skin, like, you know,
Sure.
the albino monk.
Da Vinci Code,
Yeah,
right?
that's stupidity. It's absolutely totally nonsense. The purpose is, you know, to do a little bit of penances. I mean, Francis of Assisi, who, you know, was probably a very thin man, probably like Guillermo's build, or maybe even thinner, I don't know. You know, at the end of his life, he actually repented because he had done so much harsh penance. He actually said he ruined his health.
Ooh.
You know, and he was approximately 40, 45 or 47 when he passed away, Francis of Assisi. So, I mean, you know, what could he have done had he lived longer? We don't know. But, I mean, the purpose of ascetical practices is to discipline the body so as to discipline the soul. It's not to, you know, we're not to be harming our body. And likewise, exercise. Like, we shouldn't be in the gym just because we want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
We've made that commitment.
we can both stand to lose some weight, and we can. I think the point is to be healthy,
Right.
to be healthy, and to do some penance because it's pleasing to God, at the very least for our sins, and maybe for the souls in purgatory and other reasons.
I think that was the case with a lot of saints, because I was thinking, and the same thing happened to Ignatius of Loyola. He used to fast a lot when he first converted, and at the end of his life, he had a lot of stomach problems, so he realized and wishes he didn't.
That's why I avoid fasting. Father Lundberg, he's so ascetical. Okay, Emma's topic suggestion: explain every detail of the Mass. Maybe a multi-part series. Yeah, we could do that. We could like work our way through the Missal and explain things and talk about the different parts. Celeste Youngblood joined us. Linda Wilson's here. Tess says the Chosen series is wonderful. David Thielman joined us. Christopher Cooper said thanks. Karen Hepner says to Lori that I think she's from Salisbury. My friend is from there.
I'm curious if I would like to just throw a question out. There's some other movie, I think it's called The Young Messiah. I wonder if anybody knows anything about that, if it's worth seeing.
If anybody's seen The Young Messiah,
It's about Jesus as a child.
Yeah, I don't know. Kelly Kaiser's here. Elizabeth Wallace is here. Megan Battle said would love a class or a topic on guardian angels. Okay, that'd be great. Andrew Oliveros is here. Dan Gosson's here. John Rickards joined us. Hi, John. David Tillman says, hi, fathers. Hi, deacon. Quick question. The fireplace on the back, is it real or just for decoration? Well, it is not real. It is a fake fireplace. It does produce heat, but right now we just have the light feature on. So it looks like we're at a fireside chat, but we're not getting Deacon Guillermo too hot here by that fireplace.
By the way, several good books on angels, I think. Pascal Parente, Father John Hardin, great, phenomenal Jesuit.
Yep.
And Jean Daniel, I think, also wrote a pretty good book on angels. I think.
Yes, he did.
So those are all solid,
good
men, solid books, all of them. And there are probably many others, I'm sure, also.
Tammy Spitz is here. Albert, I never see your last name right. McGilvray joined us. Lori says, did not see Young Messiah, heard it was too heretical, LOL.
Ooh, okay, I guess we'll avoid that.
Emma Fleming says, hello from England. Hello, Emma.
Wow.
Where in England are you? I think we asked you before, but let us know. Hello from across the pond, from your distant cousins.
Are they 7 hours ahead of us or behind us?
Ahead.
Are
you 6 hours? 5 hours? 7?
I think they're probably 5 because
late in the morning.
We're only
early
6,
in the morning.
Yeah, early. You're an early riser.
2 or 3 in the morning. My goodness.
I'd be a perfect morning riser if that was 6 hours ahead. Yeah. I'd be a morning person. I could actually be a morning person for once. Let's see here. Brian Baldwin says his wife Alex recommends Peter Kreeft's book on angels.
Okay,
That's
Kreeft has written. I've read a couple of his books. We had one of his books in.
I like his book Catholic Christianity or whatever, which is about the Catechism.
Okay.
It combines prayer and worship into one column, so it's like 3 columns.
We used one of his books, I think, on suffering for the penance class, which I thought was very, very good.
Okay.
He didn't resolve the whole issue of suffering, but it was a well written book, and he's a convert too, Craig. So he's very good,
He is.
very fine man.
Yeah.
Another very fine man.
Let's see here. We got here. What else we got going on? So we are plugging away here. I'm reading again, a bunch of history. I'm reading a biography and some spirituality stuff, scripture stuff. It's always good when I say, oh, I could read this, oh, we're in the quarantine. I get out 15 books and I gotta just stick with
I've
one.
started books and just put them down, so I'm just trying to I just want to get one done at this point.
Totally. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. Let's see if we got any more questions. Hang on. Let's see.
Deacon, I'm curious, have you ever had like any desire to, would you like to do a class on like the Spanish mystics? You'd be wonderful, I would think, at that.
Oh, I have never thought about it, but that would be a great idea. Yeah.
You could do Ignatius of Loyola, you could do Teresa of
John of the
Avila, John of
Cross.
the Cross.
We have Kayleen from the village at Orchard Ridge, one of our parishioners.
Oh, nice.
Really enjoy your fireside chat. Thanks for all you've done for the parish during this quarantine. You're welcome. Being at the village, that is like the Epcot Center of residences. You got the beautiful church and you've got that nice facility. So I hope that everyone's doing okay over there, staying healthy. And we got to get back there to say Mass for you. Pat says, don't feel bad. I've got 7 books going right now. Okay, Pat, you and I are in the same wavelength. If one book is good, 7 are better.
And I think too, Jim Gould, my former vocations director, he used to say always, if you're going to read a theology book or a philosophy book, have like a fiction, like a good novel, or maybe a history book. Like I want to get into maybe reading about Grant or Washington or something like that. The Death of an Archbishop is a good novel. It's about Pierre Lamy. Chris and Lavin's Daughter, I read volume 1. That's a good set. That's a 3-volume set. We mentioned the other day, from Millersville, Georgia. Flannery O'Connor is fabulous. Totally. Absolutely fabulous. Gotta read her stuff. I
love the story of redemption, the old warthog from hell. This is Turnbull, who's sitting in the doctor's office with her husband, and then the girl chokes her on the floor.
Oh, yes!
Very dramatic. And she is out feeding and watering her hogs at the end and sees all the freaks leaping on their way up to heaven. And she and her husband are walking up the back, carrying the only one who can carry a tune, but even their virtues were being burned away. So that was great. Okay, here we go. What do we got here? Mary Grace. Darlene joined us. Hi, Darlene. Hello, Kent. Mary Grace says, regarding accommodating more people socially distanced, if Mass is live streamed and people are at Mass outside or in the hall or in the car and still come in for communion. In California, they had to install loudspeakers outside with large TV monitors mounted outside and in the hall. Granted, the weather's not as cold in the winter, but the fact remains we just all couldn't fit inside. That is correct. And so we're curious as to the directives that are going to come out. One thought is hopefully that perhaps they don't just pick a numerical cap, but that they base it on the square footage inside. Like a smaller parish, as opposed to All Saints and Manassas is huge. Just having a uniform number isn't necessarily fair. Kind of more of a Walmart approach, because if you can have lots of people inside a Walmart, you can have more people inside a given church.
I have been to Walmart, not in the last couple of days, but they definitely were not socially distancing. Plus, it was no way 10 people in Walmart. Now, I'm not saying Walmart shouldn't have done social distancing. A lot of people did have masks. But in any event.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. But yes, as far as having something outside, again, this is all being proposed, things like this are being proposed to the diocese in terms of, what's respectful, what's reverent, what can accommodate more space, what's realistic, because we just can't have more and more masses. We already do 5 on a typical Sunday. Once a month we do 6. And with the 2 of us here, we can't really kind of multiply the number of masses much really beyond that unless we get some extra help. But I don't know whether there's the possibility of communion services or something, or a Mass that's streamed perhaps, and maybe after Mass we could give communion. So let's say either you were in the church, or let's say you watched Mass at home, but then for that hour after the Mass is done, you could drive in or come line up to receive communion or something. So all these different suggestions. Lori says, okay, here, read this later. This is an article from Catholic World Report, which is a good website, on our Lord's human knowledge and the young Messiah. So
Okay.
could have been certain people reading too much into the movie. So she's got that article. Thank you. Mary Cummings is here. Jennifer Cooper said Teresa Koch. I'm not sure what that reference is. Jennifer Sorensen. Hello, Jennifer. How's life over, I guess, at St. Bridget's too? I mean, if you go over there. Carolyn Spinelli. Hello, all. Nice to see you. Good to see you. Hope the Spinellis are doing well. David says, just out of curiosity, does Mark Pickowitz still lead a choir for the Sunday Masses at Sacred Heart, and does Chris Ricketts still have a group scola for some of the Masses? We have had some different musicians for the different Masses. For the Extraordinary Form, we've had Chris Ricketts and maybe sometimes one other chanter, Alan. And then on Easter and some of the bigger liturgies and Masses, we had maybe 3 or 4 musicians when we were up in the church streaming those. When we're in that little studio chapel, we usually have maybe 1 or 2 musicians, sometimes 1 or 2 cantors and the piano. So,
Father, I would just, if I can give one little plug for the traditional Latin Mass with the Scola. This was months ago. I was hearing confessions while you had the Latin Mass, and I have to say, the music is gorgeous. It's just stunning. It really
they do a great
moves
job.
us.
They do an
They do
amazing
a
job.
fabulous
Yeah.
job. So yeah.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
anybody wants to join, you have a nice, and you like to sing, we would
Join.
love to have you.
So we have a couple. The most we've had, David, is a quartet under Mark's direction for a couple of the Sunday Masses, because we have this cap on the number of people we can have in the church at a given time. Right now, the 10. So when you have a deacon and the deacon's wife, a lector, maybe a server, a priest, and then musicians, it got tight really quick. So that a couple Sundays for big solemnities, we've had 4 musicians, 5 a couple times, but mainly just 1 or 2 people. Let's see here. Alex is here. Good to see you, Alex. Mary McMahon. Dale's here. Nancy Meehan, Jim Calvin, and Christy Kleinschmidt, Joe Marcella. Let's see here. Over here, we've got all kinds of fun going on. Any controversial topics you want to stir up tonight?
No, Father, just one thing I actually wanted to comment about, because I think we had talked so much about the council earlier, and I think related to the council is the state of music, and I think we're in a time with liturgical music somewhat of flux. Like, I went to Steubenville, we had St. Louis Jesuits, Glory and Praise, Charismatic stuff, which to some degree I appreciate. I don't know if I want a steady diet of it. You probably had more traditional stuff of Christendom. Here, I've been like, when I was in Manassas, the 7:30 a.m. Mass here, we had no music at all. So I think some people want a quiet Mass, some people want a traditional Latin Mass, some people want maybe a more upbeat, quasi-charismatic type Mass. But, I tend to think with the music that they wrote a lot of stuff after the council kind of quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to be scriptural, okay, and that's good if you're trying to be scriptural, but with, let's be frank, with various musical approaches and abilities, I would say too. So I think we're moving in a direction now with some of these newer hymnals that are very good. We do sing a lot of the churches, the hymnals you can basically sing in a Protestant church. I mean, that's been going on for years. But I think the music quality is in general getting better, and I think also the average parish, you're trying to do your best to accommodate so many different types of people.
Yeah.
Some don't want the music, some want the big scola and the Latin, and some people want glory and praise, and maybe some want somewhere in between. So it's very hard, I think, to try to do your best. I think we're blessed to have Mark Pickowitz here and some very
And Sacred Heart
talented
is a great
voices.
legacy of a lot of good musicians here. And we have Shenandoah nearby, Shenandoah
Yes, that
University.
helps.
So we get all kinds of great people who have come through here, been part of the musical team. And so we've really been blessed with that.
And I think things will level out, because I think the stuff that is quality over time will perdure, and the stuff that's not will go by the wayside,
Father Stefan Starzinski joined us. I know I've read
Oh,
he's
nice.
been busy.
God bless him.
He's doing a lot of work up at Fairfax Hospital.
Fairfax, that is
So,
huge. I used to do a lot of work there too. That's a terrifically big place.
let's see here. Father, we have an update for you. Based on a recommendation you made in a prior Rectory chat, Fireside chat, Lori ordered The Man Who Got Even with God.
Oh, good. Oh, that's an enjoyable book. And it's a true story. They'll love it. They'll love it. And it's so funny.
What's the story about?
It's about a man, his name is John Green Hanning, Hanning. He grew up in Kentucky or Tennessee, and from his earliest childhood he had a voracious temper.
Oh.
You did not want to make this guy angry. You made him angry, you'd regret it. Believe me. So when he was a young man, he and his dad had some sort of an argument. He got so angry at his father, he burned down the barn with a full year's tobacco crop.
Ooh.
He burned it to the ground and then ran off to Texas and became a real life cowboy. This was in the 19th century.
Okay.
So he roped steer, he had a 6-shooter, he learned real country music back then.
Yeah.
And so eventually he came back home, had a reconciliation with his father, started dating a girl, thought he was going to get married, then he decided to take classes at the local university, which today I think it's Bellarmine University. Back then in Kentucky it was probably Bellarmine College or Technical School, whatever they called it. So he gets this idea to become a Trappist, which he had not really particularly thought about.
Okay.
So he joins the community, becomes a Trappist brother. He never becomes a priest, he becomes a brother. And he did a lot of course, the manual labor, but he had a horrible temper in the monastery. And there was one story in the book, it's hilarious. I was telling Kim, he had one of those old straight edges that the Europeans would use, he's shaving the abbot, and the abbot was ticking him off, I think, a little bit deliberately to test and see if he was making any growth of virtue. And he says to the abbot, "You open your mouth one more time, I'll cut you from ear to ear." And he felt
Just like life here at Sacred Heart.
so he had to go back and apologize to the abbot. The abbot said, "Say 3 homilies and take communion." And he died in like 1903 or 1907, 1910, early in the 20th century. But at the end of the book, he does get through his temper eventually. And the interesting part about it is that he said he was going to get even with God, and God ultimately got even with him. But it's a fabulous read. And it was written by another man named Father M. Raymond, OCSO. Father M. Raymond, who had been a Jesuit from Massachusetts, became a Trappist. So it's a good writer also, Father Raymond. Very good writer.
Yes. She got a historical copy or an old copy. It's only the 4th printing.
Ooh.
So it's kind of a classic.
But enjoy it. It's a great read.
So Lane joined us. Hope the Escalantes are doing well. Albert says, do priests ever have casual Friday? Or do you always have to wear the clerical garb? Father, you want to comment on that first?
I mean, on your day off, I think anytime you're doing something liturgically, it's preferable that you should always wear at least a collar or a cassock. If you're in the rectory, you're working, or in the offices or going to the hospital, you should wear clerics. On your day off, if you want, you can wear lay clothes. There's nothing that obliges you necessarily to wear a collar on your day off. But each priest is a little bit different.
Right. You go out in public, on one level.
When you present yourself.
Or the witness, and you go to the store, people say, "Are you a
present
priest?"
yourself to the church too.
And you say, "No, I just play one on the internet."
I don't know, Deacon, do you wear a collar on a day off? You wear lay clothes?
I normally wear a collar because, just like Father said, I mean, it's a witness, especially in the world we live in.
Yeah.
The people don't.
They want to talk to priests.
Yeah. So like today with Father, we went to the court here in Winchester, and everybody was looking at us like, "What are 2 priests doing here?" Because we were wearing those clerics.
And we ran into a parishioner, by the way. So so it was nice.
Tricia says, how do priests train to do the traditional Latin Mass? They take workshops. Sometimes another priest will train you. There are DVDs. There are online programs. There's one I just learned about. But they're going to do extensive training over a couple months, but it's kind of expensive.
Which I'm going to try to do myself.
Yeah. There's sometimes, there's communities where the monks or the priests do the traditional Mass and they can train other priests. So part of it's that. I mean, I kind of got a crash course in a week, so I could do it validly. I don't know how licit it was all the time. But, over the 7 years, it's slowly becoming more. I mean, the nice thing is, right, as a general principle, it's generally fixed. And so you learn the rubrics and you get better at it, the postures. And then sometimes your voice is more elevated. Sometimes there's secret prayers that are silent. Other times it's kind of a low voice, and there's a lot of moving parts. But so yeah, usually someone else trains you. I mean, I know priests who watch the video and they learn the whole thing from watching the video and just practicing.
I worry a lot about the rubrics and also about the Latin, but You know, and I think one of the things that Pope Benedict talked about when he gave us some more on Pontificum was he said, what was good and beautiful and holy in the past is good and beautiful and holy for us. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a museum piece like, well, let's dust off this beautiful picture of the liturgy. It's, you know, the liturgy is living because the church is living.
Yeah. No, it's again, when we go to Mass, right, what is present? The reality of Calvary and the Last Supper and all of salvation history. And at first you're like, why are we here? This is so boring. You know, the mystical reality we can't see, but like that video, the veil.
The veil removed.
Veil removed, you know, when we realize what's there, like again, Padre Pio said, you know, if we could see what was going on at Mass, if we knew and understood what was going on at Mass, we need police officers to keep people out. You know, and you sit there and think, only Santa. And then other places, you know, nobody comes. Now here we have lots of people as a general rule, normally. And, but again, learning these traditions, you know, the church has this organic development. Again, the liturgy is the special thing, you know, things that are important to us, whether it's cooking or travel or vacation, getaway, or if you're having a special dinner with somebody you love or with friends, get together for a party. You know, you do special things and you surround it with care. And so the longer you're a priest and as you grow in your faith as a Catholic, you say, okay, how do I prepare for Mass? How can I get into it more?
Padre Pio used to take quite a while to prepare. And, you know, Guillermo and I, the deacon, we both went to Mount St. Mary's. There's a great story about Mother Elizabeth Seton, who was always obviously a convert. She converted really primarily because of family in Livorno or Leghorn, Italy, the Felicis, and there was their business partners. And the Felicis had a house chapel, and they would have a priest who would come there, and they would see the reverence and the silence, and that apparently really touched Elizabeth Ann Seton, and that's to a great extent why she wanted to convert. And when she came back, she went to this priest somewhere in New York City, and this was, you know, mid-19th century, and she says, Father, I wish to take instruction to convert. And he's like, do you have any idea? You know what you're doing, what you're getting into? Father, I wish to take instruction to convert. And he's like, okay.
Here we go.
Then I was going to say at least the seminaries, the Arlington send seminarians to have an optional class for people to learn.
Yes, and that's very good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's
the
great.
Mount does, and I think St. Charles does too. So
David commented in response to Tricia, there are various resources for priests to train for the traditional Latin Mass. They may use this resource. He links to sanctamisa.org.
Well,
and there's
the Cantia Society in Chicago.
That's who does that website, yeah. Martha joined us. Lori says you have to have she says mad respect for Father Holmes' memory. Because Father remembers a lot.
I am the master of worthless, obscure knowledge. I had a classmate.
It's perfect for Fireside Chat.
It is. I had a classmate who used to say to me, Stephen, I have discovered your gift in life. It's worthless, obscure knowledge. And I said, Quentin, some knowledge is obscure but not worthless. Some knowledge is worthless but not obscure. I have the best of both worlds, and you're jealous.
David says, Father Holmes is knowledgeable on a variety of subject matters. As he says, he is a man of many opinions. Your parish assignments are coming back to
That's where it begins and that's where it ends.
Selene says, good to be here. We're good, but this extrovert is going stir crazy. Tell me about it. Stuck here without all the peeps to torture. But at least with Rectory chats and streaming masses and virtual things, we can attack you. I guess that's the wrong way to put it today. We can invade your home and come talk to you this way. We should do one of these like Zoom calls with like 300 people. We could see everybody. Lori says, when I see priests out, I pay for their lunch or dinner. So smart to wear clerics, haha. Could you kind of come by when we're having lunch? No, just joking. Anthony says, Father Holmes, I see your Mission Barbecue cup. Are you aware that Navy veterans get a free sandwich on May 13th for Armed Forces Week?
I am now.
On Our Lady of Fatima, you get a free sandwich for Armed Forces Week.
Well, we'll have to go to the drive-thru then or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Suzette says, the series The Mass by Bishop Barron is a terrific series on the Mass. Okay, cool.
And he's just come out with some, I don't know if that's the new series, he came out with a series on literary types. He's coming out with a new series now, so he keeps himself pretty busy.
There's this other series that costs money, but it's called Vid Angel, I think, and they I don't know my phone. I'm using my phone, but that's a series a program you can subscribe to, and then you can watch popular films or series or shows and you can clean out all the bad stuff. You can say, I don't want nudity, I don't want bad language, I don't want violence, and then it will, now granted, sometimes depending on how much is in that show, it might shorten the show a lot, but you can skip all the bad stuff. And so it's a way to enjoy, I mean, some of the more popular things, but spare yourself seeing all the crud.
There was, and it'd be interesting if we could get a hold of it, Father Steve McGraw.
I'll be right back, keep talking.
Father Steve McGraw, who is a priest of the diocese,
Who's down in Bonica.
and also a Christian graduate, a fellow
Yes,
of your
very
hallowed
fine Christian
institution.
graduate.
His mother did a class years ago on old movies.
Oh, wow.
Johnny Belinda and several others. I don't remember all the different titles, but did a class on old movies and the characters in the movies to find
It's still available.
were
and she
they
still
how they
promotes it, yes.
were virtuous or whether Christ figure images and these old. And I'll tell you, if you could get that course,
She's on Facebook.
okay, get that course because it would be very, very good.
Yes, because she was talking about the fact she had sent me some stuff and I didn't follow, but it's my fault. But Father Rich Carr,
okay, great.
based on that material, did some seer teachings for Seton in
excellent.
Manassas for some of the
Excellent.
kids, and so that would be something we could do here in the parish.
Yeah, I'd
but
be
we could start
definitely
watching some of
interested
these
in
great
that.
old movies.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that too.
Let's see here. Celine says, can't wait for full mass. This quarantine has been very insightful to know and feel what our suffering brothers and sisters around the world who are unable to get to mass and receive Eucharist regularly. Yes, absolutely. Sebastian Jansen's here. Hi, Sebastian. Hope all your projects are coming along. David says, as for St. Elizabeth and Seton conversion, it's good to bear in mind that Elizabeth was part of the Anglican tradition, which closely resembles Catholicism. By the end of the American Revolution, Episcopalianism supplanted Anglicanism. When you look at an old copy of the Book of Common Prayer, you can see that it almost resembles the Latin Mass. The only difference is that belief in transubstantiation is optional in Anglican Church.
And I think her ancestors were Huguenots.
Mm.
I might be wrong on that, but I thought they were Huguenots.
I've never heard that. Let's see.
I could be wrong on that, but I'm
The
not.
series you're talking about, Martha Long chimed in. Ona Lee McGraw has expanded her program. It's great. So we got to tap in with.
I would recommend. I haven't seen any of the movies in her program, but from what I've heard of it's very good. I would recommend it.
Angela joined us. Let's see here. Let's see. James Wolf. Good evening, Fathers, Lombard, Holmes, and Deacon. May God bless you all. God bless you too. Jim. Let's see here. Any other thing coming in? We can keep plugging away here. Deacon. Now that you are free of your MA thesis and you're in the final stretch, when your retreat for diaconate, for priesthood is when?
It's the beginning of June, so I think we start on May 31st, and then we end on June 5th, I think.
And you're here, what, 2 more weeks, 1 more week, 3 more weeks? How late?
Yeah.
When do you get to escape? When do you pull the ripcord?
I mean, my assignment letter says until ordination, so.
Woohoo! Maybe until,
Depending.
like in the biblical way, until, put your enemies under my feet, until they're, under my feet. Maybe you'll stick around.
We might be the last ones under his feet.
Yeah.
And then I'm praying for my classmates at the Mount because they have final exams next week, so everybody's hating me because I'm.
Yeah, because you're out. Good. Nice. Okay, good.
But at least I'm praying for them.
Excellent. Colin Stewart joined us. Mary Thompson's here. Eve Muggeridge is here. Hello, Colin and Eve. How are the Muggeridges? Anything exciting down in Fredericksburg? Mary, what have you been baking? You've been baking a lot. Anything new and exciting? I don't know what recipes you're working on. Let's see here. I always like to see the post that she's putting on Facebook of something she's made for her family. And I'm going like, wow, that looks really good. But if you're trying to low carb, it doesn't work. Let's see. All right. Anything else? We've been doing this about...
About an hour, a little over an hour.
Yeah.
We started almost
about an
close to
hour.
8:30.
Yeah, right. So,
A little after 9:30. So.
well, what else? We talked about that. Oh, here we go. Here's something. John says, Hi, Father. You are our pro-vicar at St. Thomas More, probably longer ago than I would like to admit. In quarantine, we've been streaming your masses online as a family and loving it.
Nice.
Well, thank you, John. Hello to all the skis. Yes, I was at the cathedral. Scary to say, it was 11 years ago, because I left in 2009, and then I went down to Fredericksburg to St. Mary's, and so
How long were you there for? 4?
at St. Mary's,
Yeah.
3.
3.
For 2012, and then I went to JP in 2012, and then I was there 5 years, and this year I'm coming up on 3 years here. So it's hard to believe. Time flies when you're having fun, when you're streaming.
I'm thinking you think, oh, I've just gotten ahead of the last crisis.
I've just learned life is a series of, who was it? Was it Lewis or somebody said that God's life is what happens when your plans don't happen, or something, like the real life?
Yeah, I don't know who said it, but
Yeah, I mean, you know.
But it's true.
or man proposes and God disposes.
Exactly. Or as Mother Teresa said, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Ain't
that the truth?
Mary says, hi, hey, just hopping on after a long day of unhappy kids, and you guys got an actual fireplace, LOL. We sure did. We're going to, as the deacon said, every day, or every time we do this, we're going to add some new hidden feature and see if you can like find where's Waldo. What's different this time? And David points out it's a digital fireplace, but it provides heat. Right now the heat is not on. It just looks rustic. And here we are at our fireside chat in the time of COVID. Let's see. Mary says her internet is not good. Okay, I'm hoping that gets better for you. John, I hope things are good at the cathedral, and I'm sure they're taking good care of you out there. Yes, Ursula says, let's pray that deacon is assigned to our parish. Good idea. From your lips to God's ears, you know.
We would love to have the deacon here. Whether he'd love to stay, that's another issue.
It's another question, and we'll get all kinds of vestments for him. We'll get him his favorite flavors of LaCroix.
We'll get him a decent bottle of wine.
A decent bottle of wine, yeah. That's our little pitch for good wine, because every bottle of wine we've opened for the deacon has not been so good, you know. But anyways, so that's a good sign that we're not drinking too much here.
That's a good sign.
Let's see. Mary says, so baking wise, apple. Okay, so you made apple pie. Linda, Melvin joined us. Elena, Bioska Doyle is here.
Oh, nice.
Elena, hope things are good down in Fredericksburg and that you're keeping Father Mosman in line, and Father Kelly. Who else is
That's
down there?
Father Care and Father Fulmer. That's good. I heard the German trip is still on for 2022. Is that true?
Elena, is it true that the Germany trip is on for 2022 for
And will they have the Oberammergau play?
the Oberammergau play?
That I don't know about.
Please find all that out right now and tell us so Father Holmes, we need to get him on a vacation.
They sent an email. I should read the email.
Yeah, you're right. He's asking questions and he's got the answer in his inbox. Sounds like me. Tom Vogler's here. Mary says, so far as what's baking in the Thompson household, tomorrow is apple crisp because Laura gave me 10 pounds of apples. Yes, Laura Ricketts has had her cup runneth over with apples, and she's been sharing them with people. Let's see, Heather Gardner's here. Elena Doyle says yes. So,
Ooh. May have to do the German trip then. That'd be worth
because
it.
you were supposed to go, so I went. Has anybody here gone on the Oberammergau trip? Have you ever been there? I was there with my family in 2010.
Okay, did you see the play?
I did. This is a great story. I don't think my parents are on, so I can embarrass them. So, Father Lundberg, of course, is right. Not notoriously a morning person or early to things, you know, the Lundberg Standard Time or Bjorn o'clock, you know. So anyways, so we were in Lucerne, and we were leaving to go on our way to Liechtenstein, on our way to, where else was it in Austria? But anyways, so I got up early, and I had packed, and I brought my luggage down to the desk, and I turned in my key, and then I walked to the cathedral because I hadn't seen it yet, and it was very early. I said, great, go over there. It was beautiful, and this is in Lucerne, Switzerland, and it was San Maurice Cathedral. Turns out it was his feast day, and it was the patron saint of Switzerland. I'm like, wow, how cool is that? So then I'm trying to find my way back to the hotel. Well, I got twisted around, and I got my GPS out on my phone. I didn't want to use my data, but I had to do it. So I get back to the hotel. Now, I mean, it's like 8 in the morning or something like that, and I think it was back at 8:02, or I don't know what it was. Now, let me just say that some of the people in the group were a little bit on the senior end of the age spectrum. I thought, surely, they won't have all left.
Oh,
Well, get back to the hotel, and there is no bus.
oh my God.
Everybody's gone.
Oh my
I'm
God.
like, what am I going to do? I'm trying. Turns out all along, I had the priest's phone number. It was in our group, but I didn't realize it. So I'm thinking, okay, where are they going on to next? And because at the end of the day, they're going to go to Innsbruck. So I'm trying to figure out how to get a hold of them. Now, meanwhile, my parents are on the bus. 2 of my brother priests from the Diocese of Arlington are on this bus. And I'm like, how to get a hold of them? And then the bus company had this weird name. So I go to the desk at the hotel, and I'm like, have they left? And she's like, yeah, they left. I'm like, oh. So I'm like, do you know do you have a number for where they're going? The next hotel, she goes, no, I don't have that. Of course, I should have had it, but I didn't. And so I said, do you have a contact number? He goes, no, we don't.
Oh,
So then
gosh.
I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Because I got to figure out how to get there. So I said, could you call the bus company? I forget the name, Jones Bus Company. She goes, yes. So she calls the Jones Bus Company, or whatever it was. And then I remembered the name of our bus driver. It was a little bit unique. I said, can you ask them if they have a bus driver named Eddie? And so they said, yes, we do. I said, well, okay. Now, meanwhile, this whole process took about an hour. And they're on their way. Like, no one's noticed I'm missing, and no one has come back.
Yeah, really? That's
It's
a
my
problem.
fault, obviously, it's my fault, but, there you go. So, finally, we get a number for Eddie on the bus. So we call his cell phone number, and I said, hi, it's Father Lundberg. Can I talk to so-and-so who was the tour guide? And he goes, yeah, and he hands the phone off. And so it was just around this time that everybody on the bus figured out that Father Lundberg wasn't on the bus.
Oh my
I'm a really tiny person. I disappear like a ninja, so obviously it's easy to lose me. So my parents, my brother priest, the tour guide suddenly freak out that they've been on the bus for an hour and nobody noticed. So it was hilarious. So then the lady, who was our tour guide, said, oh, don't worry. There are all kinds of trains from Lucerne to Innsbruck. No problem. You just go get a ticket. I'm like, okay, great. So I got to go buy a ticket. So I walk down to the Bahnhof or whatever, the train station, and this lady, I get to a ticket booth, and the woman says, there was a young lady who was working, and she was a trainee, and there was a supervisor behind her, and so she realized she has to speak English, and she checks the routes, and she goes, you have 2 options. You can leave at 12:30, and you change in Geneva, and you get there at 6:30. And this is early in the morning. I didn't really want to wait that long. And she goes, or you can leave in 1 hour. You change 4 times.
Oh my
and
goodness.
you get in at 3:30. I said, well, I'll take that one because I wanted to get there early. Well, okay, fine. So I get my bus and my train ticket, and I'm going to have to make 4 stops in these villages and make sure I get on the right connection and all that.
Oh.
Well, it turned out it was so great. I took the train through Switzerland, these beautiful little villages. We'd have a little time. I'd get off, I'd have a beer, get some chocolate, have a sandwich. Normally when you're on these bus tours, you're stopping every couple hours and like...
We have to take a vacation with them.
Yeah, you're usually like stopping 3 hours to get off the bus to go use the potty, And so I'm like, this is kind of nice. And I'm by myself and I had a little charging station. I could charge my phone. And so it was quite nice. And we got there and oh my gosh, the poor tour guide was so worried. Never in her life as a tour guide had she lost a client. And she never lost a priest. So I think she thought she was going to get struck by God or something. And then my parents were annoyed with me because I'd been a jerk the night before. We'd had a fight. And so then I caused all these problems. But my mom and dad were sitting in the back of the bus with their newfound friends in the group. And at one point, my mom had said, John, to my dad, I can't see the back of Bjorn's bald head. So she's like, can you go see where Bjorn is? And of course, my father, he's up there. So he goes up to the front of the bus, can't find me, says to the priest in charge. Yeah, no kidding. And says, do you know where Father Lundberg is? So then at that point, the priest said, now we're going to have the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, and it's going to be led by Father Lundberg. Crickets. Because there's no Father Lundberg. Bueller. And so finally they realized there's no Father Lundberg on the bus. And there were 50 people with 2 brother priests and my parents, and nobody notices that I'm there. Just disappear like 11, So then, anyways, at that time I called. So the whole thing was a hoot. So all I can say is, what's the moral of the story? Don't get up early. don't drop off your luggage. Because what happened was the tour guide, she saw that all the luggage was accounted for, all the keys had been turned in, and so that was the one day she didn't take a head count.
Oh.
And so I'm sorry for boring everybody with this story, but it was hilarious.
It's pretty
So,
funny.
what else? All right, so back to answering your questions. Elena says yes to both. The trip is in 2022, and the play moved to 2022.
I definitely should talk to
You should totally look onto that. Let's see. Dominique joined. David Tillman says yes. Says Father Kelly keeps getting sick. Oh, that's not good.
Father Nick Kelly?
Yeah, he's got some health problems down there, so we gotta pray for him.
God bless him. He's such a good man.
Let's see. Mary Thompson says, and the kids will be helping Tony make dino dirt pudding for me for Mother's Day.
Ooh,
And it's dino because we're using gummy dinos instead of bears.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that's a nice dessert. I hope you enjoy that for Mother's Day. Let's see here.
Speaking of which, either of you have any plans for your mothers for Mother's Day?
I need to go see my mom. So
Okay, well,
I don't have any plans yet, so
always
we have
call her.
to think about. Yeah, I will do that. Yeah.
let's see. Diane Maple says, I did a 5-week class on the Mass with Father Scalia when he is at St. Rita's.
Nice.
It was awesome, of course. He relied heavily on the Mass in slow motion by Monsignor Ronald Knox.
Good book.
Yet another convert from the Church of England. We converts
Yes.
are everywhere. That's right. It's good.
Mhm.
Kaki Kaczynski joined us. Kathy Dandino. Donna Cream joined us. Donna used to babysit me when I was a kid.
Speaking of converts, if I can give one quick plug. Traditionally, the military, you've had a lot of people come through the military who have ultimately converted and become Catholic. Avery Dulles is one of the more noteworthy ones, but we've gotten a lot of vocations out of the military,
Mhm.
myself being one of them, and there are other guys in the diocese who are also military, so I mean, and I think the sense of camaraderie, of virtue, and I think also kind of, hey, my life could be online, it's dependent on someone else, you start thinking about God real quick, so.
A priest friend of mine who was military said he thought there were a lot of guys in the military with vocations. Also the
Yes,
hierarchical structure
absolutely, yes,
and all that.
I totally agree, and I think people who go in the military, I have nothing but the utmost respect for them. Chris Ricketts, of course, was Marine, still is in some sense. Got to be careful. By the way, never, ever, ever say, "Are you an ex-Marine?"
No one's an
That's really
ex-Marine.
bad.
You can never
Never
say that.
say that. That's really bad. They'll threaten to kill you. I've had that happen.
Let's see here. Yeah,
I
well,
made that mistake once.
we know Chris Ricketts has not threatened to kill any clergy. Let's see here. What else we got here? Suzette says, that's funny, Father, that story, and all the accents are wonderful. And Mary said, your accent's on point, LOL. Let's see.
We wish he would do them more often.
Albert says, Mary and Joseph lost Jesus on a trip too. Your parents are in good company. That's hilarious. I'll tell my parents you're in there with the Holy Family. That's great. Let's see here.
Did Jesus have a little bald head?
No, our Lord was perfect. Beautiful hair, everything. Tom says, how do we make it through Italy relatively drama-free? Well, usually the drama's in the background, but there's always some drama on a trip. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. When I graduated from Christendom in '97, my parents and my sister, and we all went on this trip with Christendom College to Italy. And we had so many funny stories on that trip. And we were in the catacombs. And my mother has a particularly slapstick sense of humor. And so when she kind of gets into a funny zone, she can't stop laughing. So anyways, we're in the catacombs. And there's a language barrier or a translator. So the tour guide, we had several funny tour guides. And this one lady, it sounded like she was from Germany, then learned Italian and then learned English. So she had the wrong accent on all the syllables, on all the wrong syllables. So we start off and she goes, this catacomb was originally a valley filled with earth, and so we got the catacomb with a valley.
Oh,
valley. Filled
okay.
with earth.
Right.
And so then she's talking about, she says, and then the pops removed the relics from all the tombs of the marches. The popes removed the relics from the tombs of the martyrs.
Okay.
So anyway, so I'm listening, and but I'm cracking up.
That's hilarious.
And there is a priest in our diocese who remained unnamed, but who was who was a deacon at the time, and he was on the trip. So I'm standing out in the hallway of the catacombs because when I was in the room with her, I was starting to crack up, and I didn't want to be super rude. So I'm like, they're like, "What are you doing out here?" I said, "I can't be in there. Why?" Her accent. I'm laughing, and he goes, "What are you talking about?" So they go in the room, and then they come busting out laughing a couple minutes later. So anyways, so this other guy joined our group. So we had our group on the tour, and this other man, I don't know, it's an American, he gets in our group, and so he goes up to the lady because she talked about the reliques. The reliques, what are the reliques? And he says, "You keep talking about reliques. You know, what is that?" And she goes, "You know, the Ramans." So these are the relics. They're the remains. So anyway, and then at one point, like she goes, you know, "Notice this is the oldest wooden ceiling in all of Rome. Oldest wooden ceiling in all of Rome."
Okay.
You know. But anyway, so at one point we walk in the room, wherever some big space we were in the catacombs underground, and I make eye contact with my mother. You know, like can't even look at her because we were all cracking up. So anyways, so these trips are always some funny story.
You
So.
can any great stories from your travels in Spain? You gotta have a few.
Sure. I mean, there was one day we were doing the Camino during my novitiate, and there was one day that I had so many blisters in my feet that I stayed behind everybody else, so I had to ride the bus.
Oh.
And it was an interesting day because I was by myself I think I was in Burgos, and I was going to the.
They're all like hiking like on a death march, and you're in Burgos eating, having a great time. I love Burgos.
Oh my goodness, I've never been there, but
Burgos is beautiful. We did 15 or 16 miles on the Camino in one day at World Youth Day.
Oh wow!
And then at the end of the day, we had mass. And at that point, I hated everybody. And then people would go, "Are you okay, Father?" And I'm like, "I'm fine." So these trips, World Youth Days, pilgrimage groups, it just always shows I have no charity. So, all right. Mary Grace says, "Stories are good." Well, we got a lot of them here. Megan Battle says, "Abroad alone instead of home alone. Parents saw lots of kids and, well, there they go. We're gone." Mary says, "The story is anything but boring." Linda says, "Great story." Martha, "Great story." Ken Balbuena joined us. Mary says, "Dirt pudding, Father." So Dino pudding is dirt pudding. Chocolate pudding, crushed Oreos, and gummies decorations because yum. Father's liking that. Look at that. He wants some of that.
I don't know about the gummies. The other stuff sounds good, but...
Yeah, James joined us. Frank's here. Diane says, "Father Lundberg, you are master of voices. Please do Mother Angelica for us." I'm trying to think of a Mother Angelica story.
There's got to be a million of them, too.
Yeah, no, there are. Okay, so when I worked at the network, for 2 weeks, I produced her show one time. Because her producer was out of town. And so I was producing The Journey Home at this point.
Oh, Marcus Grota, nice guy.
Yeah. And so Mother's producer was gone, and so they said, "Can you produce Mother's show?" I was kind of intimidated. And so her producer says, because it was 2 nights. The first night would be, she would just be by herself, and she'd do commentary about life or reflections. The second night, she always had a guest. So the producer said, "Well, she was talking about the Trinity or something last week for her Tuesday show, so she might do that, but she might not do that." So the way the routine would go is she'd come out of the convent into the complex where the network was, and then I was going to touch base with her, and then she would pray with the crew before the show, and then she goes on the show. So she came out, and I'm very nervous, and it's like, I was 23, and so I said, "Mother, hi, I'm Bjorn, and I'm going to be producing a show." "Oh, that's awesome." So then I said, "Are you going to be talking about the Trinity?" She goes, "Oh, no, honey, we're all done with that." And I said, "Oh, well, what are you going to talk about?" "I don't know. What should we talk about?" And I was like, "I don't know." And so she goes, "Some help you are." And she like walks off. So I'm thinking, great. We haven't even started the show, and I've already ticked off the founders of the network. So anyways, then we get the crew together. We all pray. She goes out in the studio. So we're sitting, when you're the producer, like a project manager, you sit in the control room, you got the guys doing the sound, and the credits, and the graphics, and the director. So we're sitting back there and the show's going, and we got a teleprompter, I can send messages to her. And so the phone rings, and so the guy goes, Bjorn's for you, pick up. And it was one of the sisters.
Oh.
And she said, I said, hello, sister, it's Bjorn. She goes, you need to tell Mother that her wimple is not attached correctly. I'm like, okay, or something. And I said, you mean like, she was like, it's not buttoned or something. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And I hang up, like, what do I do with this? So I said to the crew, I'm like, sister so-and-so and Mother's wimple's not attached. What should I do? And they said, leave her a message in the teleprompter that says that technical difficulty. So I type a message in the teleprompter. Please go to a break. Technical difficulties. She, we'll be back in just a minute. So then we go to the break. So then I go out in the studio and all the people there, and I have to go, Mother, Sister Mary so-and-so called, and your wimple's not fastened correctly. And he goes, what? I thought we blew a tube. And I said, no. And then I ran out because I was terrified of her at this point. So then she's laughing away and she's fixing her wimple or whatever. Show goes on. We're all done. And so then at the end of the show, Mother did not like to be the center of attention, but all these pilgrims would come to be in the audience and to be with her. And she was very kind to them. But so there was a security guard, kind of a bouncer, who would always be with her, and the producer. So we're slowly making the way out of the studio. Well, this was in '99, and it was right before Y2K, and Mother was really into Y2K. Because she was kind of like hoping that God was going to reboot America. Because
my mother always used to say YK2, she could never quite get it right.
Yeah. So she always kept on to Y2K bag, we're going to be riding in carriages and eating salami, or whatever. So anyway, someone had given her a stuffed animal. It was a little insect with these legs, looked like a little bumblebee, and it said Y2K bug. And I said, oh, ha, that's great. So then as we're walking out of the studio, she gives it to me, this one's for you. So that was my memento. I have a relic of Mother Angelica, which is a Y2K bug. So.
There was a priest there, Father. I'm curious if you know whatever happened. He used to be one of our early guests for years, Father Michael McDonough. Seemed like a really
he was before my
saintly kind of guy. I wonder whatever happened to him. I thought he was trying to found a community. I don't know what happened to him, but anyway.
No, Mother was great. I mean, she is great. I got to go to her funeral, and so that was good. Let's see here.
You have to really respect not only what she did, but her love of the church and her desire to defend the church, even sadly from some of those inside the church.
Yeah, no, but she just loved God, and she was joyful. I mean, one of my favorite stories, was when I was there, was when the engineers, I mean, this is when you're trying to fundraise for the church, these kind of stories are very inspiring. The engineers came to her, this was back again, late 90s, and Scientific Atlanta, or Scientific whatever, it was a technological company, satellite company, I don't know if it still exists, but they had come up with a way to store television programming in a computer. And normally, if you taped a show, then they would tape it on these big reels or on like a big videotape, a fat videotape, and then the studio operator or the tape operator had to manually push the tape in and start play when it was time for your show to go live on the air, or start the tape machine. Right. And this idea of this hard drive, essentially, from Scientific Atlanta, was that you would put the tape in and it would get stored in the drive. It would be automatically programmed so that it would go to the satellite without you having to manually operate it. It was a better system. So the engineers come to her and say, Mother, this would be really great for the network. She goes, how much would it cost? And it was going to be $1.5 million. Oh! So she said, well, try to get him down to $1 million. So anyways, so then she goes on the air that night, and at the end of her show, she goes, somewhere out there, some fat cat's watching, and God's been really good to you, and you haven't given anything back to God, and I need to hear from you. That's all she said. She didn't say what she needed. She didn't ask for a specific amount. So anyways, not long after that, one day, this sister calls, Mother, there's a phone call for you, and she takes it, and it's this woman watching. She said, my husband and I were watching your show the other night, and you talked about that there was someone out there who maybe need to give back, and we have been really blessed by God. We've done very well in life, and we'd like to give something to you back to the network. And she said, oh, that's great. And it was $500,000. And she goes, "Oh, that's awesome! Now I have to pay for the new blah blah blah." You know, and the woman said, how much would it cost? And she said, "Oh, $1 million." And she goes, "Well, we'll give you the next $500,000 the next month." So with one phone call, she had that thing paid for. Now there were many times when the networks were struggling financially.
Oh, I know.
She said one time, Raymond Arroyo has in his biography, she said, "Budgets are the devil's handwork." She didn't subscribe to these theories, but there were times when they were hurting. The other one that I love is the satellite story. When the cable network, when she had started with Deacon Bill, started the network at one point to go on to cable, but a satellite. She orders a satellite dish. Now, I don't know how you order a satellite dish payment on demand, but she hadn't paid for it. And so the satellite shows up on the back of again, it's in the biography, on the back of these 2 Big Mac trucks or whatever. Here comes the satellite dish. And they want payment. And they were in the red. She didn't have the money. So and it was $600,000.
Oh my goodness.
She was supposed to pay, but she doesn't have the money. So she is like stalling, and she goes into the chapel. And she goes to the priest saying, "Lord, I blew it. I thought you wanted this, and da-da-da." So then she's leaving the chapel. She's going to go out and tell the guy, "We don't have the money. You're going to have to take it back." And as she's walking out of the chapel, one of the sisters comes and said, "Mother, there's someone on the phone who'd like to speak to you." "Oh, okay." Because she wanted to get over. She didn't want to go say no to the guy. Well, there's a guy on the phone. He's on his yacht in the Bahamas.
Oh my goodness.
And he's having problems with his family. And he's reading one of Mother Angelica's mini books. And he wanted to donate $600,000 to the network.
Wow.
And she said, "Can you wire it today?" And he did. So she had the satellite paid for. So there were so many cases where they were really hurting financially, and they'd get loans and creditors.
It sounds a lot like Father Solana's case.
Yeah.
Things happened in his life at just the right time when he needed something or wanted something, or it's just the hand of God. It's providence.
Yeah, totally. So again, it was amazing. Let's see here. Okay, so there you go, Diane. I did you some Mother Angelica stuff. Father Richardson joined us, and he thinks Mary's recipe sounds delicious. And Mary says it's awesome and easy enough for the kids to help. Mary Grace Shaper says, Kateri says Deacon's new vestment is beautiful and awe-inspiring. Yes, he'll be back. He's closing up the church right now. Kermit's here. David Thielman says, I'm thinking about the priesthood, and I'm reading sentiments from Fulton Sheen and Ronald Knox. So thoughts about the priesthood. Oh, that's good.
Well, they're both two very fine authors to read. They're both good, solid men. I would say to David, pray a lot, and maybe seek out in time a good spiritual director, an older man, a priest, could be a religious. Talk to them about your feelings and aspirations. Keep praying, if it's God's will, the sentiments and the feelings will perdure, and there'll be signs. You'll see signs along the way.
Absolutely. I remember God just kind of opens the doors when you think it's not going to work.
I had looked at two dioceses, and one of them had, I don't know if I was actually formally rejected by one or both, but basically the door was closed to both places, and then...
And Father Levis said to check out Arlington?
Said go to Arlington, and I wound up seeing Father Gould, and the rest is history.
Woo! Kermit says, cool. Father Tamil's with us. Susie Angle says, hi fathers, love your Mother Angelica impersonation. Mm-hmm. Yes, we enjoy the mother stories. JJ Riestra's here. Celeste Youngblood says, when I was in 5th grade, 1986, I went to Our Lady of Sorrows School in Birmingham. We took a field trip to EWTN, and I had no clue what that was or who that nun with the braces was who was handing out little plastic rosaries to everyone.
Wow.
But I saved that rosary, and decades later, it's my relic of Mother Angelica. What a shame that at the time I had no idea who it was that I had met that day. Well, Celeste, here's a good story that you'll appreciate. I heard this in Philly, because I went to seminary at St. Charles in Philly, and Bishop Burbage was our rector. And but one time the story went around about in 1976, when they had the Eucharistic Congress in Philly. There were a number of guest speakers and people from around the world who were staying in Philadelphia for the Congress. And so many of them were staying at the seminary. And there was this bishop who came down to breakfast who had this very thick accent. And this Philly priest had a hard time understanding him, so he avoided him. Just, he tried to sit with him one day at breakfast or lunch or something, and it was real awkward. So he avoided him, much to his chagrin, when 2 years later he was elected Pope John Paul II.
Oh, wow.
It was Karol Wojtyła from Krakow, and he couldn't understand him. He should have hung out with him, but instead he avoided him. So, let's see here. Caitlin joined us. Hey, Caitlin. Mary Grace says, moral of the stories. The moral of the story, we must have great faith, absolutely. And Mother, she would just step out in faith, and she loved God, and her biographies are great. You can get Raymond's biography, or especially in the audiobook, he does all the voices.
I think it says something of Father's keen intellect, but also power of persuasion when he's changing my opinion on Mother Angelica and Saint Jose Maria Escrivá de Balaguer. So listen to Father. He's a very, very wise.
We have a good time here at the
man.
Rectory. Lisa Hartley's here. Barb Hirsch joined us. David Tillman says, does the Arlington Diocese still need more priests? Yes. Because if I was thinking about priesthood, I was debating about whether I should seek incarnation in the Diocese of Lincoln, Nebraska, since it's more liturgically conservative traditionalist diocese. Well, to be honest with you, David, a couple things to consider. Do you have any connection there? Because just going to a diocese because of a given bishop or a given scenario can work, but also it doesn't. If your family is all here in Virginia, you have to discern what God's will is. If it seems like the signs are that He wants you to apply somewhere, obviously you work with your spiritual director about it and pray about it, see if God confirms it. Generally speaking, I would think homegrown vocations are really good. The diocese, the area, your family's nearby.
And I think also speaking as one who's not from this area originally and spent some time in Rich when I was in the military and not having family here, it is hard. Mm-hmm. So I think having family nearby and a connection, I think, is important. All of us, every diocese, religious order can say we need more vocations, and that's absolutely true. At the same time, there was a song years ago when I was in the military, bloom where you're planted. Well, if this is where God has planted you, maybe this is perhaps where you're meant to bloom. So pray, take that to prayer too.
We definitely need, we need tons of vocations. Arlington's been blessed, but as we grow, now we're getting into a period where we haven't had a lot of priests who are retiring, because we always had a younger presbyterate, but now we have priests who are starting to think about retiring, and we could grow, we could have more parishes. We could use even more priests here. Oh, look, it's Deacon Guillermo.
Speaking of priests.
So Celeste said, oh my goodness, about the story about John Paul. Father Bradley is here from Washington. Good to see you, Father Bradley. We've been going here. Father, we have a fireplace now for our Fireside chat, Rectory chat, even though it's fake, But let's see here. We have let's see, no new questions coming in. Let's see if we got any texts here. Let's see. So anyway, so it's 10:08 and the deacon's back, and so we probably can wrap up.
Just one quick thought about vocations for what's his
David.
name? For David.
Yeah.
And maybe the deacon could offer a little bit of opinion here too. I think a lot of people today ask about different religious communities. There are some very fine religious communities. There are some older ones that are likely dying, unfortunately, and the charism of the church of something perduring is given to the church. It's not given to religious communities. And I have met men, who live their life as Jesuits or with other communities, and the community changes. It's not what you first joined. The good thing at least about a diocesan priest, yes, priests will retire and come and go, and you're moved to different assignments. You can be as joyful, as happy, as holy as you want or not. Whereas with the rule, I think with the community and the rule, your holiness to some degree is how you live the rule and conform to community life. And it's a little bit more challenging. I don't know, you were religious for some reason, maybe you could offer something on that too.
Yeah, and I think they're different but complementary vocations in a way, because I feel like there's a mutual help between diocesan and religious priests. But you're right, at the end of the day, a religious priest is has to work with the people he's entrusted with, and he cannot work outside of that people he's entrusted with. But a parish priest, it's just like a miracle, because you're working with everybody and you're a priest for everybody, and you're supposed to help everybody within your parish, and that's just great about the diocesan priesthood.
It's crazy, but it's great.
I was always told, like in a religious community, you cannot hide. You might want to try, but you can't hide. So maybe there's some virtue to that as well. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. There is in community life. I mean, that's true about community life. Yeah. But I was told once by Father Jaffe, our former vocations director,
Pastor at St. Christ Redeemer in Sterling.
I was told by him that for a diocesan priest, his community is his parishioners.
Yeah.
And in a way, I do agree with that. You can't hide from the parishioners.
They are your family. They really are, for better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
Most 99.9999% of the time for the better, but you know, like every good parent, you have some straying children. You say, I wish you wouldn't have done that, or you know, you're disappointed, but you love them and you go after them.
Totally. No, it's good. I guess at the end of the day, you know, for David or anybody, you know, you want to find where God is leading you.
Exactly.
You know, there's some people who could not handle the wrong word. For some, if someone has a vocation of priesthood, for some of them, parish life would drive them absolutely nuts. Mm-hmm. And for you know, for myself, the thought of religious life, I can barely handle being a parish priest. I couldn't. They would kill me in a religious order. So, it's where you're meant to be, bloom where you planted, you know. Mm-hmm. I think you look back and again you realize God is guiding us all our whole life, and He's preparing us for whatever work it is we're called to do.
I think two things. Look at, in my case, most of the priests when I was a child growing up were the parish priests. So I think look at, you know, if you taught by the Jesuits or the Franciscans or the Dominicans mm-hmm. or the monks, I mean, I would, you know, if you have that charism experience. But I think the other thing is look to your basic gifts and talents. How is God going to use mm-hmm. your gifts and talents? It could be doing parish work. It could be being a missionary. It could be being a monk, you know, and every person's gifts and talents, those are things we continue to be in prayer and hopefully discerning. God, where can I serve you best? Where can I use you? I mean, we talked about John Vianney. He wanted to run away and be a hermit.
Yeah.
You know, and
I can appreciate that.
Yes.
When I heard that he ran away 3 times from his parish, I'm like, why did he do that? And then I became a pastor.
There was a great story about Padre Pio that they were going to ship him somewhere else, literally, and the people were so. This was in I think it was San Giovanni Rotondo. He was going to leave and be sent to another monastery, and they revolted. And somebody showed up at the monastery with a revolver and said, "If you leave, I will shoot you. I will kill you. Because you're our priest. You're our saint. We don't." And he said, "No worry, no. I stay.
Can you imagine? I think I need to leave. You leave over your dead body.
It's like, Father Lundberg, you can never leave Winchester.
But that's more like Father Holmes and Deacon. You can't leave. There was a great story I heard about a parish in another state. I won't say where. But in the 1980s or whatever, when the exuberance of recavations were going on, the pastor was moved to renovate their church, and they had this beautiful, beautiful sacred art in there. And there was this side altar to Our Lady. Well, anyways, so they're tearing down the main altar and ripping out all these things. And this farmer shows up with his truck, more or less, and a shotgun. And he threatens the pastor, and he says, "That side altar to Our Lady, my mother or my grandmother paid for that." And he says, "I am taking it."
Good for him.
So he gets it in the back of his truck on gunpoint, takes it off, and stores it in his barn. And years later, in a more sane time, there was a new pastor in town, and word got out that he wanted to kind of restore the church to some of its former beauty.
Beautiful.
So the priest, this farmer, felt that he was more trustworthy. So he contacts him and tells him the story and all this stuff. He says, "So I have this altar. Would you like to have it?" And he said, "Yeah." And it ended up becoming the new high altar because he had preserved in him and destroyed. So like just hilarious. Someone shows up with a gun. You're not tearing out that altar.
One of the things, I don't know if I told you this story, this was a couple of years ago, was when I was back in Long Island. I grew up in Long Island, as I like to say. Long Island. So, and actually born in Queens with the President of the United States. Well, he's little bit older than me. But I was visiting a parish, and there was an Irishman, Father Donald Shane, I believe his name. He just celebrated his 50th anniversary last year, I believe. Anyway, and he was talking about being a pastor, and he said something. I was shocked at the time. I was much younger and naive, and he said, as a pastor, when I was a young priest, and I thought I want to be a pastor someday, I'd have all this power, I'd have all this so that I could do what I wanted. And then he found out, he says, and the longer you find you're being a pastor, you very seldom get your own way. And I was shocked. I'm not sure. I was literally shocked when he said, "No, wait a minute. You're in charge. You call the shots. Blah blah blah. Do what I say." When you're a pastor, in the best sense, I think, and I can't speak as father, but you can. You really are a father figure to them, but also the father of the family, the parish.
Right.
And sometimes you might get what you want. Sometimes, but not all the time. You have to do what's best for the family, for your children. Sometimes that means saying yes. Sometimes it means saying no. Sometimes you've got to say to the school, I want you to do this, or the program, I want you to do this, or, we're going to try this program. It's like...
We're going to start streaming by a fake fireplace.
Yeah, so it's, I liken it more and more to almost like a conductor in a symphony.
Yeah.
It's complicated, and everybody has their role to play, and the pastor certainly does too, but the other thing to remember, I've said this before, is that canonically, when you're installed as a pastor, whether it's 5 years or 10, however long, the office is bigger than the man. The man who has the office has full authority in his role as pastor, canonically, to do what he needs to do. But we also have to remember that pastors come and go. They also get replaced. And so while you're there, you have to think...
You're passing through.
Yeah. What I might want, is that what's best for the parish?
Right.
Is that what's best for my family?
And what does God want?
Exactly. Yes.
I might want something, but is that what God wants?
I might want a nice high Baroque altar, or beautiful altar rail, or whatever.
Expand this or do that.
Right, but at the end of the day, what's best for the parish?
Right. Amen. Let's see here. Lori says, good night all. Thanks for keeping me company while I was straightening up the downstairs. Emily joined us. Kermit says this one church does not have architecture particularly likes. Okay. David says, for parish priests, making time for prayer will be very essential for effective ministry. How does a priest balance his prayer life and work life, especially when there's a lot of things for priests to do? Good question. I was talking to a good friend of mine about the fact that, when you figure out, okay, you're supposed to take care of your health, you need to pray, you need to have order, you need to be present, you need to be out there evangelizing, you need to be a counselor, you need to work on your homilies, you need to be available for confession, you need to go, all these things. And so he was talking once to an older priest who was speaking to a group of priests about the life, and he was just a counselor, a psychologist, the priest was. And he said, how do you do this balance? And the psychologist started to laugh. He was another priest. Because basically he says it's impossible. There's always something that has to give. So part of the challenge as a priest is figuring out, what can I drop? I'm going to have to drop something. I can't do this all, so what am I going to fail at? And so prayer is essential, and working on your health is essential, and then getting a team of people together where, again, it's God's parish, and it's the parish of the people. So you're trying to figure out how can you delegate things out. If we don't pray, we're going to run into problems. If you don't take care of yourself, you get worn down. And sometimes you have these big dreams that you like to do, but that's not what you're meant to do. You think, you get newly ordained and you're like, oh, we can teach all this beautiful theology and we can do all this good stuff. And it's all excellent, but really a lot of the priesthood in the parish, in the trenches, is like doing triage. It's like you're putting out fires, or you're at a gas station, you're filling up people's tanks, or you're kind of an emergency room. People show up at the worst of times. They don't show up saying, Father, I'd like to have a plan for how I can read the Summa. It's more like, I have stage 5 cancer. How could you help? And you're like, ooh, So you have to learn to rely on God. But no, you have to figure out a balance. You got to find a plan of life that, you work at. You're screwing it up all the time. You make mistakes. But the prayer life, we can't give what we don't have. And I think the seminaries today are really trained well in prayer and this balance and spirituality, because you need to keep getting good ideas in your head through reading, through study. You need to have fraternity. You need to have some kind of support network of other priests that you can get together with and hang out with and, bounce ideas off of. You need regular forms of formation. so that you learn new things. Like all the things that we've been trying to do here at Sacred Heart, some other parish was doing it, and a priest friend of mine would be doing it. I said, how did you do that? Because could I do that at Sacred Heart? And then I would come home and say to the staff, do you think we could do this? What do you think of that? They'd say, yeah, we can do that, or no, we can't do that. So it's this balance is it's a challenge, because you're right. If you don't, there's always too much to do, and you realize people are coming for God, they're not coming for you, and you need to kind of have an integrated approach to your life, because if you become a priest for what people are going to do for you or what they think of you or meeting your needs, it's going to be a problem, because you got to be careful. We're all needy on some level. We got to work on it. So, Deacon of the seminary, I mean, they give some ideas for you about balance. They give me presentations about
They do. I mean, I was just thinking about it as you were talking, and I think at the end of the day, it's also really important, just like everybody else, to find people who hold you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And that means for the priest, brother priest, and a spiritual director who can help you if you're struggling with something in your life. Yeah.
And again, I think I used to, when guys would ask about vocations, when guys at the high school or college guys or people bring up the question about how do you have a vocation or what do you do, I used to talk all about the calling and the signs and this and that, and I don't say that so much anymore, in the sense that I'm assuming this is the same thing for religious life, but I can't speak to that so much, is that the vocation, in a certain sense for a priest, is all about our relationship with Jesus. I mean, with God, but in the Eucharist, in the sense that your priesthood isn't going to make sense if you think, well, I've got to have this kind of an assignment, or I have to have this kind of job, or I have to have this kind of facility, or this kind of title, or this kind of this thing, or whatever. Because no, that's not what it's about. The priesthood isn't about us. I mean, it is. You're called by God, and this is where you're meant to flourish, but it's more like letting God's plan unfold, and sometimes you're like, I'm strapped. There's that meme on Facebook where it shows, like, doing God's will, and it shows, like, this mom and this little boy, and they're on a roller coaster, and it's going down the ride, and the mom, it says, the Holy Spirit, like, trust me, I'm in charge, do God's will, and then the kid, who is you, it looks like he's going to vomit, like, because you're like, God says, here, step out in faith, and then you're like, I'm going to throw up. So, like, surrendering to God's will is terrifying. But again, right, we can't give what we don't have. If you and I don't wrestle with, how do I trust God? How do I surrender? How do I try to find balance? How do I pray? How do I seek God's will? Then how are you going to give that advice to other people?
I go back to the story about one of my other favorites, Solanus Casey, that when he went to seminary, Solanus, the family were Canadians, but they settled in Wisconsin, and he was from a family of like 14 or 16
big
kids.
family.
Big family, and he kept dropping out of high school so his other family members could finish school.
Yeah.
So he had about the equivalent of probably an 8th grade education. He was not a stupid man. He was not stupid. But when he went to the first seminary, they lectured in German, I think, or Latin. Then he went to the second one, they lectured in Latin. He couldn't, and he never had Latin. So he did a novena, and he prayed this novena.
And he was Irish, and it was a German seminary, and they were really not fair to the Irish
Right,
guys.
that's a whole other issue. But so he does a novena, and the answers go to Detroit. He's like, Detroit, what? And so he joins the Capuchins, and his grades weren't bad. They weren't failing. Back then there were 70s, which maybe 70s were low.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting. Now, Benedict Rochelle talked about this when he went up for ordination.
Listen, let me tell you something.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Anyway, when he went up for ordination, they withheld faculties so that he didn't hear probably confessions. In those days, give extreme unction anointing of the dead because he'd have to hear confession. They thought his knowledge was insufficient. There was another classmate of his who petitioned Rome and got faculties to anoint and hear confessions.
I think he couldn't preach either.
Couldn't only preach little days called fervorinos. He was a priest simplex. So Solanus either he didn't know about that, which is possible, or he did and he chose just to accept it. That's a humble man.
Yeah.
And that's why he's going to be a saint. Now he's a blessed and someplace got someday to be a saint, because they made him into a brother. He would answer the door. They'd call him Father Brother. And he was a priest simplex, so he would say Mass, but never preach, and probably didn't hear confessions or anoint the dying. And yet today
But he worked all those miracles.
Yes.
And that's why they said, like, He had the fiddle, and he was not a good violin player.
He's terrible.
fact, he was
He's kind of
terrible.
terrible. He was arthritic.
Yeah.
He was very arthritic. At
But
the
then,
end,
like,
to be
they'd
fair.
go in the chapel, and he'd be playing his violin for the Blessed Sacrament, for Jesus.
He'd
and-
serenade Jesus.
And then there was a story where this one brother was going to the dentist, and he had to go get his teeth worked on or something. And a woman came by. It was a hot day. It's Detroit, and she brought an ice cream cone, and she gave it for one of the brothers. And so she left. And Father Solanus, who was the porter or whatever, the door guy, says, "Oh, I'm going to save this for brother." It's a hot day. Takes an ice cream cone, puts it in the drawer, shuts the drawer. Then, hour or two later, the brother comes back from the dentist, all good. And he says, "Oh, I have ice cream for you." He opens the drawer. There are now 2 cones in the drawer. He has one to him, I think one for him. I mean, like, the miracle of the ice cream cone. I would love that. Father Holmes, someone dropped off an ice cream cone. Here you go. There's one for me, too. It's keto friendly. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Okay, Jim says, "I'm not normally a conspiracy theorist, but in the advent of giant murder hornets, these new bees coming, during a plague, any thoughts on what we should expect next? I know we should always be ready for the end times, but this seems crazy." Well, Jim, being a conspiracy theorist myself, that's a great question. I don't know the answer, is the easy answer. We have to trust God. The tricky part is always trying to figure out, oh, look, here comes this plague. This must be the biblical plague. Well, and I saw that on social media. We don't know that. It might just be a bunch of killer bees. Not exactly, a pleasant prospect, but it may not be, the horsemen of the apocalypse. It may not be one of the 7 plagues. It may be. We don't know. Calvary looked horrible. Our Lady was there. St. John was there. Magdalene was there. We need to try to do God's will. And so it's like, what is in front of us? What is God asking us to do? Because there was a story, it was great when we were in seminary. One of our great professors was telling this story about a priest, kind of going back to this whole question about vocation. He was in a very difficult assignment in the city, and the priest felt like a failure. It just wasn't going well. The assignment wasn't working, and he was frustrated. And so he decided to go to the bishop and ask for a transfer. Well, then that night he had a dream, and he was approaching the pearly gates, and the gates are starting to close. And he was a shepherd, and there were all these sheep that he was bringing into the gates. And so he's trying to get them in the door. And then as the gates are starting to close, we turned around and there was this one little sheep there who was kind of limping along and couldn't make it. And so he had to kind of go pick up the sheep and carry it in the gates. And so basically when he woke up, he realized he was not called to leave that assignment. He didn't know who the sheep was in that parish. And he didn't know how that was going to work out for him in time at some point. But that God wanted him there, or he was to seek to do God's will. And he didn't know who it was that he was meant to help. But, so, yes, is this scary? Sure. What's the answer? Pray the rosary. Turn to Our Lady. You read about these prophecies. You read Louis de Montfort. He says in the last times, Our Lady is going to raise up, great saints. You read Fatima, and Fatima, priest I very, very much respect, he's very convinced that Fatima entered in or ushered in an apocalyptic era. Is that going to last 500 years, 1,000 years, 50 years, 100 years? We don't know. But, I think it's reasonable to say we are in very difficult times, and all these things are going on, and there's some form of purification and a reset. But at the end of the day, we don't know when we're going to drop dead, and we don't know when God's going to call us home, and who knows who the little sheep is that you're supposed to bring to heaven. So, we make prudent judgments and reasonable precautions, and let's not be crazy. But, any thoughts?
There's a great video on YouTube that you can pull up called Jesus, My Best Friend.
Oh.
And they're singing this song, and there's a great scene, there's several scenes in it about the resurrection, other scenes, but there's one scene where they're out on the water, and it's one of these little tiny rickety boats on the Sea of Galilee, and the waters are going horrible, and he quiets the water. But before he quiets the water, he's walking on the shore, and they think it's a ghost, of course.
Right.
And he stops about 10 feet away from the boat, and he bids Peter to come. And so Peter's like, you want me? Okay. And so he walks, and Peter does begin to walk. It's only when the winds blow and the waves start to crash, he loses his focus, and that's when he begins to sink, and then Jesus pulls him up, raises him up. He says, Lord, help me, or Lord, save me, and he pulls him up, and then eventually they get in the boat, and Jesus like grabs him around the waist and his shoulder, and he's walking back to the boat with him. It's like, I wonder how we're doing this, So, I tend to think you're right. My sister Claire, who, God bless her, always like, aren't we living in the end time? I'm like, Claire, I'm 56 years old. I maybe have 20, 30 good years left, if I'm lucky,
Right.
And maybe, who knows, not even that. So, I'm living in the end of my life here. So I think we got to keep our focus on the Lord. So many people, and it's a very difficult question to answer. What do I do when suffering is going on? Oftentimes we don't really get that answer, I think, till we look back in retrospect and find out why the Lord may have prevented or what was the purpose of it. But I think just as much as Father, as you were saying, just try to stay focused on the Lord. Go to Mass, go to confession, pray the Rosary, devotion to Lady, devotion to St. Joseph and the Saints.
And right now we can't go to Mass,
grace
but we
as
can
much
do
as we
streaming
humanly
Mass,
can.
But
I love the line.
Go to adoration.
Yes, I love the line from Ambrose. I think it was either Ambrose or Simplician to Saint Monica, when Monica was worried about Augustine, and I think it was Ambrose who said, "The child of so many tears cannot be lost."
Yeah.
If we're fervently praying, if we're seeking God, we're not going to be lost.
Right.
We may lose our lives, but we will not lose our souls. And the ultimate question for us is not death of the body; it's death of the soul.
Yeah.
We want to be in heaven.
There's a great video. I went back to what Jim said. So always look for opportunities to bring about God's kingdom. Absolutely. And Jim, I am posting to you a response of this video, which is really great. If you get a chance, watch it. And hang on, it's going to post here shortly. But the video is really neat, and Father, I have to send it to you too. It's called Father Ed Thompson, friend of Fulton Sheen, former alcoholic, priest of mercy. And this priest died a couple of years ago. It's a 22-minute video. And Brandon Vogt, who works with Bishop Barron and in kind of evangelization, really loved this priest, and he was friends with him. And he somehow, I think, posted this video. But the story is this guy, it's beautiful. His mother was, he was from Philadelphia. His mother was from Ireland, Irish immigrant. And he and his brother were twins. And when she was pregnant with the twins, the doctor told her that if she had the babies, she was going to have rheumatoid arthritis and that she should abort them. And she didn't. And then as soon as the babies were born, she developed rheumatoid arthritis. He said when they were babies, she told her right away, she made a little sign of the cross with them when they were born. What's really fascinating was the day they got ordained, her arthritis went away. But anyways, so they grew up in Philly. Philly has a rich Catholic history. And they loved Fulton Sheen, and they used to listen to him all the time on the radio. And his older brother goes to the seminary, I think, first, and then he goes later. And they were kind of discouraging him, not because they really didn't want him to be a priest, but they didn't think whether or not he would persevere, so they kind of made it hard for him to kind of make him push for it. So he gets ordained, and he's doing vocation work and all this stuff, but eventually he develops alcoholism, becomes an alcoholic. He loses his assignment. He goes through several assignments that fall apart because of his alcoholism. Then he he loses his place at the diocese, I think. He goes and he gets a secular job for a while. Then he reincarnates somewhere else. That goes well for a while, and he becomes a pastor, and to celebrate he has a drink, and he goes back down the path of alcohol abuse, and then he eventually has to leave there. He's gone several times to treatment centers. So eventually he moves to Florida when he gets contacted by this woman. And the woman was a very holy woman. She was sort of almost a mystic, and she had come to see him when he was the vocation director in Philly or whatever. And he had helped her discern her vocation to be in some Poor Clare community or some monastery. Well, because of her health, it didn't work out. She couldn't persevere as a nun. So she had moved down to Florida. She was living by herself with her health problems. She had a bunch of cats. And she was a prayerful woman. And one day in prayer, Jesus told her, you need to go find Father so-and-so. So now he's been kicked out of 2 priest assignments.
Wow.
She tracks him down. She invites him to come move in with her. He has nothing. He moves in. He hates cats. He's afraid of cats. And so he has to stay in this room. But he was able to function as a priest privately. He couldn't say public mass. I mean, there was no abuse, but he did have the alcohol problem. It was scandalous. So he gets off drinking. He moves in with her. He gets a job, he's working, whatever. But he's able to function with his priestly dignity. He's probably saying Mass and everything. Well, eventually, many years later, he gets his situation straightened out. The bishop down there finds out about him. He gets the help he needs with his alcoholism. And he's able to function in the last years of his life. He's a parish priest, and he helps train the servers, and he teaches and does baptisms. And it's just this beautiful, beautiful story about staying close to Jesus in the Eucharist and the mercy of God, and he's our best friend. So no matter what's going on, that's what we need to keep our eyes on the prize, We don't know what's going to come. You never know. But God's got a great plan. Half the time you feel like you're on that roller coaster and you're going to barf, but, he's got a plan. So, anyways, so that's that. Let's see, so we got that.
Do you get any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, on the same lines, I guess, I don't know, it's not up to us to know about the plagues and all these things, because we're not God. I mean, that's up to God. But it is up to us to be together with Jesus and to have a relationship with Him, because at the end of the day, whether or not the plagues are going to come or it's the end of time, really doesn't matter if Jesus is our friend and we are, I don't know how to say it, if we are ready to encounter Jesus in heaven every day. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about holiness. If you're prepared for heaven today, then you have nothing to worry about, basically.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I know this is not the case every day, and that's the real drama. The real drama is when I'm not ready for heaven today, because I don't know if there's going to be a tomorrow, so I have to be ready for today.
But I love St. Claude de la Colombier. He was the spiritual director of St. Margaret Mary Alacoque. And he's all about confidence in God. He has this beautiful prayer, like an act of trust and hope or confidence in God. And he says, look, I can lose my health. He says, I can lose my wealth. I can lose my reputation. He says, I can even lose God's grace by my sins. But he said, more or less, he says, the devil can try to pry from my cold, dead hands my hope in God. Because the scriptures say that no one who hopes in God will ever be confounded. That, we're not going to get to the end of our life and go before God. He's not going to say to us, oh, you trusted me too much. I'm not really that good. God is infinitely better than we can know. So even if we're big sinners and we're weak and we're struggling and I'm not ready to go to heaven, Father, I'm weak and I screwed everything up. Trust in God. Jesus said to St. Faustina, Jesus, I trust in you. That's got to be our prayer, even when we don't feel like saying it. Mm-hmm. Even when we're terrified about coronavirus or the economy or people are losing their jobs and dying. I mean, it's scary. Well, so no doubt.
The scriptures also speak, what one amount of worry can add one more moment to our lives, or
right.
Can you change the color of the hairs on your head? It's like,
I get some hair back.
in the kingdom you'll have a perfect head.
It's gonna be beautiful.
But and the other thing too, in the charismatic renewal, we had this expression which I did not particularly like. They used to say, faithfulness, not success. I always used to think faithfulness is success.
Oh, that's good.
And if we're faithful, the evil one is going to try to pry us away from God, separate us, tell us you're no good, you're not worthy, right. God doesn't really love you, you can't be forgiven. These are lies.
Right.
Period. Lies. Push back with the truth.
Yeah. Push back. I love it. All right, let's see what else we got here. All kinds of stuff. We got all kinds of stuff here. Tricia says, thanks for all the laughs and wisdom. You three are great company in our family room tonight. We'd like to be on your big screen there. Maria joined us. Natalie Valentine's here. Rick Bookwalter, he says, hello, fathers. Donnie McManus is here. Ann Gelcher, you're a big fan from St. Mary's. Lori says, I'm not sure I knew that Father Holmes was from Long Island. My grand was from there, lives in Valley Stream.
I've heard of Valley Stream, but I left Long Island when I was 12 years old, so in fairness, I haven't lived in Long Island now.
We've got to plan a bus pilgrimage up to Long Island, go to the shrines of Long Island.
40-some years. There probably are some pretty churches up there. I don't know if there are any shrines or anything on the island. I'd love to get to Boston. I have not been to Boston.
Boston's
some pretty churches.
Boston, it's great. Bob Elliott joined us. Jimmy Frisbee. Father Will Shear. Hello, Father, if you're still here.
Oh, Will's a good young man. Good
Mike
priest.
and Catherine O'Connor. Margaret Williamson from. Do you remember the Williamsons?
Oh,
from
wonderful family. Margaret and
St.
Hugh, they're a great family. Another former Marine, God bless him, served his country.
No ex-Marines, but former Marines.
Former Marines, yes. Oh, once a Marine, always a Marine.
Semper Fi. Michael Gardner joined. Father Tom Yale joined. Hi, Father Tom. Hope you're surviving, doing well. Up at Blessed Sacrament.
Lovely. Tom's parents are wonderful people, by the way.
Sam is here. Pete Buckbauer joined. Hi, Pete. Martina Cruz. Margaret Williamson says, it is wonderful to hear you and Father Holmes speak. Thank you. Daryl Vadreen here. Brian Dunn. Lori says, we went on a pilgrimage to Long Island last spring. Excellent. All right. Well, it's now 10:40. We've been doing this for 2 hours. And it's, once again, a short little time where we got to get together. And thanks for joining us with our new fake fireplace. And Deacon, you want to lead us in a prayer? You do the blessing.
Sure.
Surely.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. We ask Jesus and the Blessed Virgin Mary in this month of May to help us grow in our trust and our faith during these difficult times. We do this praying through the intercession of our Mother. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
And may the Lord turn his face to you, may he show his countenance to you, may he show you his kindness, and give you his peace. And Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
All right, everybody. We will see you at least next Monday. So hang in there.